at 6 o'clock here on Tuesday, February 11th, 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Call this meeting of the Rossmoor Community Services District Board of Directors to order. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Director Maynard.
Here.
Director Shade.
Here.
Director Imnay.
Present.
Director DeMarco.
Here.
President Searles.
Here. And to present our Pledge of Allegiance, we have Cub Scout Pack 667 from Weaver and Lee Elementary Schools. Welcome, gentlemen.
Please stand for the presentation of colors. Color guard, advance. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to my flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard, retreat.
Hey, gentlemen, don't go anywhere. On behalf of the Rossmoor Community Services District, I'd like to thank you for attending our meeting tonight and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Can I get your first name?
Oscar. Wes.
Well, thank you, Oscar and Wes, from Troop 667, from Weaver and Lee Elementary. On behalf of the Rossmoor Community Services District, we'd like to present you with these pins for leading us tonight. And now we move on to item 4, our presentations, recognition of sponsors for the 2024 Rossmoor Family Festivals and Rossmoor Winter Festival. Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you, President Searles and members of the board. At this time, we're asking the board to please recognize our sponsors that annually support us. As you know, we do a number of family festivals, 4 of them throughout the summer. We do our winter festival and do a couple small get-togethers in between, health and wellness, things like that. But it's costly, and we ask the sponsors that live and love our community to jump in and help us in any way they can. And we have a number of contributions we receive throughout the year, and it probably offsets our programs by 30 to 40%. I'd have to dig in a little deeper, give you an exact percentage. But it helps, and it also gives them an opportunity to get their name out there if they're a business and show their love for Rossmoor. So at this time, if you would call them up and we would present them with a plaque and thank them very much.
Yeah, first we'll start with our title sponsor, Memorial Care, and I believe we have John Fay here. All right. Want to do one at a time? Let's do them all together. And then, okay, perfect. And second, we have the Rossmoor Homeowners Association, which is a silver sponsor. I think Frank was Fauci was supposed to be here, but Marianne, will you accept on behalf of the RHA today? Additionally, we have, on behalf of Jones and Mayer, our council, also a silver sponsor, Tarquin Preziosi. We have CR&R Environmental Services, which is a bronze sponsor. Do we have Alexandra Benson here? Welcome, Alexandra. And on behalf of the Youth Center, who is yes, who is a service sponsor, and Lena Lumet. So we'll thank you. Those who were also sponsoring but unable to attend tonight were the Simon Law Group, Friday Night Lights, Tomlin Team Real Estate, Braithwaite Chiropractic, and Homes by Lori. So we are very thankful to our sponsors and all you do. Thank you so much.
Chris, would you please give them their plaques, and let's get a photo up here by the rock. Sure. If you can all come up, please.
Photo op.
And again, a great, sincere thank you to all of our generous sponsors. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, item A4B, presentation by Orange County Sheriff's Department Captain A.J. Patella.
Is this thing gonna work tonight, Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I like it. Otherwise, I'm taking your chair again. All right, well, you guys should all have copies of my report in front of you. If you don't, let me know, I'll get you a copy. As you can see, we compared different subsets of data from last year and this year, and it's looking really, really good. Total calls to dispatch is up, but to me, that's a good thing. People are calling us. I don't mind that. Our total reports cut in half. Crimes against persons, like I say every time, we really can't control that stuff. It's usually isolated incidents within a family home, and that's basically staying the same. The thing I'm really encouraged about is our crimes against property, again, cut in half, and you can see down below the kind of summary of that. Last year we had significant amount of burglaries and some thefts of catalytic converters and tools. Some fraud and identity theft, and this year we pretty much cut it out. The ones that we did have were those crimes of opportunity. Like I said, I don't want anybody to be a victim of a crime, but we need to lock up our stuff. And when we do lock up our stuff, we don't need to leave our valuable tools laying out on the seat, or our purse laying out on the seat. So a lot of these things are unattended property in plain sight. Vehicle tampering, that could go a lot of different ways, but luckily there was no actual loss on that. Again, kind of related to calls to dispatch, our suspicious activity calls are up again. Like I said, I like that. I like when people see something, they call us. Worst thing comes out is my guys come out, they say hi to somebody that's not up to no good, and we have a positive police contact. So I'm very encouraged by these numbers. I'm really encouraged because the trends that we've been seeing in previous reports are the fraud and identity theft, and we were talking about it earlier, the cyber crimes, educating the public and making sure we're not falling. And sometimes we have no choice, like with credit cards and stuff like that, but A lot of these things are scams and things that we can prevent. So I'm really glad to see that that went down. Another thing that we were working on that me and Joe talked about was a small little, it's not even technically Rossmoor, but it's definitely Rossmoor adjacent. So if you follow the wall that follows Martha Ann that divides the 605 freeway and Martha Ann straight down Mainway here, there's a flood control channel, and there's like a beautiful park for homeless people on the other side there. Luckily, it hasn't been too much of a problem, but I stuck my neighborhood enhancement guys on there, and we actually did find some people back there, so there's some stuff that we can do to fix that. Luckily, there's a giant wall there. There was a homeless fire there a couple weeks ago. No damage. Like I said, it's on our radar, so we're not going to let that get out of control. The other thing you have in front of you too, which a lot of questions have been coming in, is about this new daylighting, they call it, law in California. It's actually been on the books for a while. They've been just issuing warnings about it. And now, as of beginning of the year, we can actually start doing citations for it. So my traffic team is basically kind of working on educating. The Homeowners Association actually put something out similar to this, basically trying to tell people that, hey, from now on, parking too close to the intersection based on kind of these charts is not allowed anymore. We want to make sure and it's been a problem I know off of Montecito for a long time, is people, they're coming out of these neighborhoods and they can't see. So that's the reason for this new law, and my guys will start citing for it here very soon. So, but I'm very pleased with the numbers. I'm open to any questions you might have.
Let's start with Director Maynard. Any questions for Captain Patella?
Yeah. What's the different, how do you define an unmarked crosswalk?
So if you look at it's like a street that has no crosswalk. So if you kind of look at the top graphic, there's literally, it's just a corner to corner. There's no marked, painted crosswalk. So, and then what they do is they kind of bring it back, and I'm not an expert at it by any means, but it doesn't go from the far curb, it goes from like the inside of the sidewalk. So it's actually a little bit more, you have to park even farther back on those.
But would that make it in Rossmoor? We've got a lot of four-way without marked crosswalks.
Correct.
So that's almost every corner in Rossmoor is an unmarked crosswalk.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Wow, that's all I have to, that's
Well,
just
and there's a spirit of the law and the letter of the law, and like I said, I always teach my guys to go towards the spirit of the law. What is the need of the community? And like I said, the real need is where it's congested, not necessarily.
Right.
My guys aren't going to be out there with measuring tape, making sure that you guys are exactly 20 feet. It's about the safety of people that are pulling out of those blind streets. And if it's not a problem on certain streets, then I don't consider it a problem.
From your point of view, do you think having red curbs, painting those, having the request to our county to paint those, make it a little easier for
couldn't
people to
hurt,
see
but
where
it's- I don't know if
does it help you?
I mean, any definitive boundary and signage is always a help.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the beautification of Rossmoor, if that's the thing you guys want, but that's not my job. And nor is picking out the red curbs. That would be Wayzoo's job.
Right.
So I'm definitely open to discussion. I'll either way.
Okay, that's all I have.
Director Shade?
I actually, thank you for coming tonight, EJ. It's always good to see you here. I thank you for this report. I love the way that the numbers have gone down from last year, and I know I call your office non-emergency whenever I need to. And thank you for the traffic report here. On those red curbs, is it the 20 feet? Are the red curbs 20 feet?
It's not the red curves. This new law is
That's just
basically
everything.
to create a line of sight at these intersections. So they don't want the car, so it's not a red curb. It's basically a measurement from the crosswalk or the unmarked crosswalk, designation back from that point to create some line of sight, to create some sort of driving safety.
So the ones that are red curbed, what's the length on those? Is that? are those
Wherever the
20
red curb ends, I would imagine. So I imagine it'd be.
There's not like a standard,
If the red curb ends, chances are you could park there. Like, I'd be very, you know, specific to where the location that you're talking about. But to my knowledge, if a red curb, no, bad. Red curb ins, you're good to go.
All right.
But I imagine there might be some odd location that has a red curb that goes 5 feet in on an intersect or on a corner, and well, now should be 20, right? So, and I imagine we'll probably have a lot of those little, you know, oddities throughout a lot of unincorporated areas, so.
Okay, that's what I
And
was
then,
wondering.
hooray, Public Works, come to the
Right.
rescue.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Director Rimney?
Not a question, but I just want to say that the north part of Rossmoor, you've been extremely responsive on. We have been working with the residents to say, see something, say something. And the working relationship you're forming with the community is awesome. We have a couple of people, one actually said he feels like he's virtually deputized. So thank you for the good work.
I'll make sure I get him a sticker. Well, and on that note, I know there's been a lot of questions, especially from Neighborhood Watch folks like yourself. We've had for years, we've had a thing called the Sheriff's Blotter that's basically just the numbers of all the calls that are generated throughout Sheriff's Department areas. That system is kind of going away. It's kind of going in the past. So I'm kind of working with my guys to see if, and I've talked to a couple of people that are on the Neighborhood Watch about just creating like a monthly report. I know normally I come here quarterly and present some stuff, but I'll probably start making kind of a monthly thing. That way you guys can provide it to the block captains and stuff like that. I know you guys are thirsty for information, so I'll give it to you. But the blotter, I have no control over that, so I figure I at least create a substitute. So.
Director DeMarco?
Thank you. Captain, thank you for the report. So these numbers for 2025, this is January, right?
Correct.
Okay. I was aware of it happened, I think, on Martha Ann, where an elderly lady was approached by...
Yes, that is one of the thefts.
That's one of them?
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
so, and that's the one thing I really want to talk about is... So
Just to bring it up and...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So so we saw the trends with the fraud and identity theft. That's kind of going down with education. Now we're really starting to see these distraction thefts. And this one, very similar to the one we had last year. Remember, we referred to it as bank jugging, where the team of 2 or 3 people will come up and they'll distract, usually an elderly person, and basically with a hug, a dramatic scene, some sort of, maybe even like, they're selling Bibles. It could be literally anything, and it's just so their partners can get to the loot. That one lady had it on her front seat. That guy took it. This particular one is actually even more creative. It's almost like a magician, where you go to talk to somebody at their car door, and you don't have a bracelet, you don't have a watch, and it's amazing what some of these people can do. It's literally like watching a magic show. So you really, really have to be cautious about people that approach you that just doesn't seem right. Maybe make sure you have somebody with you. It happens a lot in the shopping centers. This one was very strange to happen actually on this. That's very unique. I've never seen anything like that. We see them in shopping centers a lot. People leaving banks. A lot of people don't pay attention to like just simple things like their purse and while they're shopping. They turn around and all of a sudden half the stuff, they can take stuff out of your purse and you don't even know it until you're home. So the distraction thefts are really, really big. So some say it's, would call it's the gypsy cruise, but it could literally be anybody.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Another thing, how has just because I heard about this, and I forget which day it was, but street sweeping, parking enforcement, again, that's your department, right? And my question is, you're trying to be even throughout Rossmoor. I know you can't be in all of Rossmoor, right? But you're trying to be even throughout Rossmoor. You want to talk to anything about just your people come out both Monday and Tuesday, and we try to get a lot of coverage in Rossmoor in terms of parking violations for street sweeping?
Yep. We try to get as many as we can. It's very odd because you have signs posted that say, like, don't quote me on what the sign says, but on Monday, you can't park on this side of the street from this time to this time.
Yeah.
And what I find is that, and it's understandable, I would find that, hey, if the street sweeper is passed, why don't I just put my car back? But what you don't realize is that my people don't know necessarily if the street sweeper is passed. They're going off of the signage, and what the community has wanted is enforcement based on those signs. Unfortunately, like I said, sometimes it doesn't work out where my guy's going to be following around this, the street sweeper the entire time. It just doesn't work that way, but they enforce to the signs. So if that's the way you guys want it, as far as having it from this time to this time, where they can't park on that side of the street, then, like I said,
Yeah, and I'm
people
not
did
too-
get upset when they got
Yeah.
cited for that.
And I don't know if that's.
I understand that, but
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm sure people complain about that, but I'm not, my main concern is there are, smaller streets that don't get a lot of coverage. And I know if a resident, because I know residents that like their street cleaned,
course.
and they have neighbors that, habitually park in front of their,
And
even
then-
though they
and
have an
then
option
and
of
then
going
when I
across the
ask
street.
that is, all you have to do is let us know.
Okay.
And we're a full customer service shop. We aim to please, and if a street needs a little bit of love,
Yep.
we will be happy to give it.
Do you know, have you shared with us how many parking citations are written in Rossmoor in a given?
Not recently, because it really hasn't been a huge concern, but I
Okay.
can,
Okay.
absolutely.
The other thing, if I remember, I'd love to see what's the reaction this year on this law in term of, well, because your deputies can cite for this, right? So, it's a, Director Maynard said, we have so many blind intersections, and you read the law and it's 20 feet on each side, that's a lot of parking.
Right.
I would imagine residents off of Montecito are going to love it. They can put their trash cans out now, especially the ones on the corner. So, but anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in Rossmoor. So, but Captain, thank you. Thank you for the report.
You're very welcome, sir.
Just one quick question, kind of came along with Director DeMarco's situation with people, and you talked about coming up to the doors and distracting. What are the hours or license requirements in the county for door-to-door solicitation? Or
It's
if you're not
whatever
familiar,
the county permits, but most of the time, people that are going through the neighborhood are not permitted. Again, call us and we will shoo them away. We usually have to track down their unmarked van somewhere in the neighborhood, and they got to get picked up, but we'll do it.
okay, so just for residents' sake, just to give you a call and
Absolutely.
not to try to figure out what the rules
No,
are. All right,
that's our job.
perfect. Thank you, and thank you so much, Captain.
You bet.
I do have one follow-up.
Yes, sir.
On this whole crosswalk 20 feet, you mentioned that right now you're like education, kind of, because people don't know about this.
Always, yes.
When do you think the date is when you're going to start citations?
Well,
When do you cross from education to,
I would say
okay,
very,
guys, it's
very
time.
soon, but also, like, you have a perfect example, like, hey, if somebody's complaining that one's parked too close to the curb, and I can find the owner and they move it,
Yeah.
then mission accomplished, right? But if we can't locate the owner and it's a safety hazard, then it is what it is. So, but we can start moving. We're actually, my guys are working on, like I said, once I feel comfortable that we've educated the community enough. I know some other agencies have, I know the RHA has, but I want to make sure that we've reached out personally and made sure that we've done our part, and then I can feel comfortable unleashing my guys, Like I said, I'm all about, like I said, if I had 0 citations and 0 arrests in Rossmoor, through the whole year, I'd be completely happy, because that means something we're doing is working. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, but if I can get people to accommodate the new rule, because it's kind of weird, like you said, can you imagine if you have so many intersections here? It's a spider web of streets. So people in the lawmakers in California don't necessarily realize that, right? So there's going to be some unforeseen consequences behind this, but luckily we're very reasonable people, and we will try to do the best we can with this new rule.
Thank you, Captain.
All right, sir.
All right, we'll move on to item B, additions to the agenda. I don't believe there are any emergency additions. We'll move on to item C, public forum. I have the Orange County Fire Authority Captain Kyle Kane present. Welcome, Captain.
Good evening. I'm Kyle Kane. I'm captain with Orange County Fire Authority. I'm here to discuss some of the concerns you may have had regarding the structure fire that occurred last night at 12501 Foster Road. Quite a remarkable fire. There were lots of challenges that we faced, among those the water supply, and I'll kind of get into that. But I think that before I dive into the particulars with that particular incident, I think it really drives home the importance for the public, even in their homes, to maintain a good fire safety plan. That involves having good working smoke detectors. I can't speak to whether or not this particular residence had working smoke detectors, but that's certainly something that can alert people, get them out in a timely fashion. Also, we advocate practicing with your family what we call EDITH drills, exit drills in the home, having a plan with your family, a muster point, whether it's whether it's your front yard, your side yard, your neighbor's home, to make sure that everybody makes it out safely, and also to have clear exits so that you have a good way out, and also consider having a fire extinguisher within your home as well so that you can mitigate something small before it gets to be too big. So I think having something like this happen within the community certainly drives that home to all the residents in the community and serves as a good reminder to make sure that you have all those things in place to stay safe in the event of a fire. So with this incident in particular, as I stated, there were a number of challenges, but the water supply, I think, is at the top of everybody's list, especially given what's happened in the last month or so in the Palisades with respect to water supply. So part of my job here is to assure you that the water supply in the community of Rossmoor is good and is supplying ample water. What they found is when they hooked up to that hydrant, they experienced a catastrophic failure, which is very uncommon. We do experience some problems with hydrants no matter where you are, any community. There's lots of fire hydrants. It is difficult, I think, for Public Works to kind of keep up with the maintenance. It's a big animal, and you got to just take it one little bite at a time. We do find sometimes that the valves break, so you can't turn it on or turn it off. Sometimes it happens, if it's a wet barrel hydrant, they've got multiple valves and water comes out as soon as you crack that valve. There's dry barrel hydrants where the nut is on the top. You can recognize that as you drive around. And you have to turn it lots and lots of times. And that opens a valve deep underground. Those are subject to breakage also. It's just exposure, wear and tear, age, all those things. And any fire hydrant in any community is subject to those types of problems. What we experienced with this one is not that. It was a catastrophic failure where the hydrant itself meets the pipe coming out of the ground. I am by no means an expert in fire hydrants, but just at a glance of this particular fire hydrant, it looked like some of the bolts failed, and so it was separating from that pipe. And so it was under pressure. There was water kind of coming out of that seam. Ultimately, we were able to mitigate that by closing the valve in the ground, but it did cause a problem. It did interrupt the water supply, and so we did have to address that. But again, I'm by no means an expert with respect to maintenance of fire hydrants, but they're subject to corrosion and just exposure to the elements because they're out all the time. I will say that we as the Orange County Fire Authority do have contingency plans in the event of loss of water supply. This is something that we practice from the command staff on down to the rank and file firefighter. This is something that we address, and that is, we did put those contingency plans in play, and that's redundancy. So we're identifying, as we're arriving on scene, we're identifying multiple fire hydrants. So the first due company officer is identifying the closest fire hydrant, and as more units come in, and dependent upon the type of fire, they're identifying secondary and tertiary fire hydrants in the event of failure of the primary hydrant. So this is something that we train on and that we address, and that all the company officers and the chief officers are thinking about when they're en route to even what seems to be a very small or low risk fire. This is something that we're considering all the time. And we did enact that contingency. There were 3 additional fire hydrants within that vicinity, and they were all within approximately 350 feet of that residence. So the one that we utilized was literally across the street. Best case scenario for us, unfortunately, it didn't quite work out, and so we enacted our contingency plan and identified those secondary and tertiary water supplies, and we utilized those hydrants that are down the way. Each engine carries approximately 900 feet of supply line, and so that 350 feet from one hydrant to the incident address is well within our capability of supplying water to that address. As I said, there were multiple other challenges. If you have questions about those, I'd be happy to answer them. But with respect to water supply, I can say that This is something that we do not experience, a catastrophic failure in that regard. The water supply that was being utilized, I think, was ample. There's a pressure gauge on all of the apparatus that have the pump that's pushing the water out of the fire hose and onto the fire. There are some calculations that we make to determine how much water you can get. Just because you have pressure initially doesn't mean that you have the volume, right? So as soon as you open up that fire hose and you're putting 150, 300 plus gallons of water onto that fire, you'll see a fluctuation in that pressure gauge for the water being supplied by that hydrant. When one of the truck companies with their aerial master stream, so with that ladder, with the nozzle out the top, was supplying water, I don't know how much they were giving, or how much they were putting out, I should say, but I would expect that it was in the realm of 750 gallons per minute, and they still had ample pressure to supply more water. And they were all utilizing the same water system. It's around here, it's a grid. I don't know that there are any dead-end hydrants here, so you're getting water from multiple directions, right? So sometimes if you have a hydrant here and a hydrant here, this one is at the end and you're utilizing it, and then as soon as you utilize this one, you start to rob from the one at the end, and that's not the case here. They were all pumping appropriately. There were no calls for loss of pressure once the water supply had been reestablished. So that one hydrant failed, we enacted our contingency plan, and then we were able to establish an, I'd say, good water supply, and we're able to continue to work the problem from there. There were a multitude of other challenges as well. If you have questions about those, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. But thank you. I first want to say thank you for containing it to the single structure. I think that was quite an accomplishment with what was shared, I think pictures and video and stuff. How many, companies or how many units, were able to assist?
So at the peak of the incident, you had 9 engine companies, 4 truck companies, one of which was a heavy rescue. That's a specialty piece of equipment. They specialize in search and rescue. And then you have 5 battalion chiefs as well for the command and control. So you have lots of personnel. Each one of those units has 4 people on it. So you have a lot of people to control, and those command vehicles come up and they sort of develop the plan, and they start to take control of those 9 engines and 4 truck companies.
Perfect.
And there's a bunch of support, vehicles that provide, air bottles once we use them up, waters, other stuff to support the personnel. But those are the units that were actually working the problem, working the fire.
Thank you. Director DeMarco?
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure.
First and foremost, are Rossmoor residents, or was anyone hurt or harmed?
There was one resident that was home at the time of the fire. She was unable to make it out her front door. So there were 2 units that arrived on scene almost simultaneously. One of those units was establishing that water supply, and they could not make it up to her through the front door, so they had to force entry through metal side gate. That proved to be a little bit of a delay. Once they did that, they made access to the backyard. She was at the window in her backyard. They put a ladder up to the building and were able to rescue her from the residence and pull her out. And as far as I know, she's doing well.
So, and again, I'm just asking the question, just hearing this information about the hydrant. So let me just ask a couple questions here. So did the hydrant failure slow your effectiveness in putting the fire out?
Each fire engine carries 500 gallons of water. So we did have 1,000 gallons of water at our disposal, even without that hydrant. What does happen is that once we establish that water supply and everybody starts flowing water freely from the hoses, we have to reevaluate our plan when that water supply is interrupted, because now you have to start being more judicious with your application of water. And so it is certainly consideration for the command and control component, where you're having to pull people out of what would otherwise be a more risky position because they don't have that water to sort of protect them. So they had already made access when they had that water supply interruption, so they did have to pull back to a safer location before they would establish it. But they were still able to flow water, just not as much as they were when they had that water supply fully established.
And another question, again, just curious, what was the fire department's response time to this fire? Do you know?
I don't have the times exactly, but I did kind of look at the response times just in general. You had the first unit on scene within 6 minutes, and within the first 10 minutes from call to arrival, you had 4 engines, 1 truck company, and 1 battalion chief on scene within that 10-minute period. So our response time is first unit on scene within 5 to 7 minutes, and we met that with 2 units that were on scene
Okay.
within the 6-minute period.
And this hydrant failure, and again, this board, you know, we went through this, I think, a year or two ago, where they replaced on the north end of Rossmoor, Donnie Ann and Martha Ann, the hydrants. And I believe our water company did that, right? So is the water company in charge of the hydrants, or just supplying the water to it? Because I know the water company, right, Joe? The water company came in here, and remember that a couple years ago? Does the water company provide the utility for our hydrants?
As far as I know, I'm by no means an expert on that. I do know that the fire department is not responsible.
Yeah,
We don't go out and maintain the hydrants at all.
You guys don't come out and check each hydrant
No.
or open them up or
No,
anything
usually
like
that falls within like Public Works or the Water District or just whoever is responsible for that jurisdiction with respect to that utility and that infrastructure. But that is not something that's falling within our purview.
I would just, I mean, the obvious question is how many other hydrants are going to fail? And we should probably know that. And we should probably find out who is responsible for our hydrants and ask them, you know, do you check the hydrants?
I would say generally speaking, whoever is responsible does do that, but with what frequency and what exactly they're doing, I can't speak to that. I can just say anecdotally that hydrant failures do occur, but it's not frequent,
Yeah.
you know, but it is one of those things that, you know, we're in the business of planning for the worst, and so we have, you know, even from, you know, new company officers, when you're training to be a company officer and a chief officer and so forth, these are problems that they throw at you as
Yep.
you're practicing so that you can react to it as quickly as possible.
Well, we appreciate your coming here tonight and the response time. And then also, I mean, I heard there were many, you know, engines that rolled on this, so we certainly appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you had a large number of resources there within a short amount of time, and they all, you know, work the problem.
Thank you.
Director Rimney,
No comments, just thank you.
Thank you.
Director Shade.
Thank you for coming out, Captain Kyle. Was that you that was being interviewed yesterday?
No, that was not me.
It was a guy that looked like you. I thank you for everything that you guys did. It was incredible. I watched it unfold and was being updated with everything that you did with the rescue and everything. That was absolutely amazing, and so thankful for everything that you did.
Thank you. That was Engine 2 that, you know, they're right there and within the city of Los Alamitos, so.
Right off of
right around the
Green
corner.
Street, I believe.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So,
I know
yeah,
them well.
they did a fantastic
Okay.
job.
Well, we appreciate Orange County Fire Authority on many levels as well, so
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys and just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you as well, and thank you for your whole team. How many hydrants were actually used for this fire?
So they, as I said, they established the water supply with that one directly across the street.
Right.
Once that one was out of service, there were 2, I believe they were both on Foster, that they utilized to
So
supply
the
the
one
water
that
for the
didn't
remainder
work
of the
plus the
incident.
2, so there was 3
Yes, sir.
hydrants.
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, and as Director Mark was saying, I'm just curious, at the end of the day, whose responsibility is it to go to each one and make sure that this problem doesn't happen in the future?
Yeah, that's a fair question.
I mean, it's just so close to what happened in our neighboring county just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That you're just wondering, okay, it's obviously not firemen
Yeah.
going out and being plumbers, but, you know, who is responsible?
I would say this is certainly a different problem than what they experienced, obviously, up
Yeah.
north, you know?
Because we
We were
need
able
to
to
have
overcome it pretty
assurances that,
quickly.
you know, hydrants work.
Absolutely,
Water will
yeah.
flow, pressure will be there. And is that Public Works, is that, you know, and how often do they come and check every community? Obviously, we're biased towards ours and want to make sure that it's safe in here, so. I mean, at least you guys know where every fire hydrant is.
Yeah, so they're marked on all of our maps,
Yeah.
you know, so when we're coming in, as I said, we're identifying primary, secondary, tertiary
Yeah.
water supplies.
Yeah, Mr. Mendoza, if you could just find out, someone from the county needs to reply to the catastrophe with the one hydrant. Is that the word you used?
I said catastrophic failure.
Catastrophic, I was
Yeah.
close, but still, that issue came up, and we need someone from county needs to address it with us.
And I use that term just because there was no recovering from what was wrong with that hydrant.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, his words, not mine. But again, thank you, and thank you for the team.
Thank you.
And I don't have any other questions. Mr. Mendoza, do you have any?
Please. I just had a comment here. Earlier, Captain AJ from the Sheriff's Department talked about the area behind the freeway that abuts Martha Ann and those residents, and there's a fence behind their house and that separates them from the freeway embankments and some brush there also. But there's a good 10 feet of right-of-way that is just full of weeds and brush, and it's a fire hazard. So I was receiving calls from patrons asking, what do we do? Who do we call? And so I don't think anybody was getting the runaround. They're calling OCTA, they're calling Caltrans, they're calling the county. Basically, it's a bunch of different jurisdictions. And when you have that 405, 605 freeway project going on, it's not done. And so right now, part of it's OCTA, part of it's, then in a few months, it's going to be revert back to Caltrans. So the OCTA representative came out and met with me, and we drove the freeway, we drove everything. We identified the fire. The homeless encampment was doing a hot plate. They tapped into a light at the bottom and opened up the bottom and tapped into that for their hot plate, and that's what caused the fire. So that immediately made me call Chief Covey, which, you know, he was great. And my question to him is, can you help? Because nobody's taking responsibility. It's falling between the cracks. So Chief Covey sent me this yesterday saying that, let me find it here, I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me find it here, I lost it. That he identified, I got word from Seal Beach PD, because you have jurisdictions back there with Seal Beach, Los Alamitos, sheriffs. I got word from Seal Beach PD that they are taking action on the area around College Park West and the 405, 605 area. There's a cleanup scheduled for the week of March 4th. Numerous agencies are involved, including Caltrans, OCTA, the county. Hopefully that helps out a little bit in there. Because the residents, they're concerned. I mean, you know, you get a spark and it can all you know, just travel over to your backyard and your house. So I want to thank, you know, Chief, and he took action. I had called Supervisor Wynn's office asking for help. She tried to help. Everybody got involved, but at least we're getting some type of reaction.
It
So
sounds like
thanks.
they're working toward a solution for
Yeah.
sure.
Again, thank you, Captain.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the firefighters.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, public forum, we have Sid Rhodes. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Sid Rhodes. I live at 3442 Yellowtail Drive. I don't want a tree in my parkway. And here's my reasons. My parkway, as well as this is my parkway, as well as Orange County having a right to the parkway. The owner of the property should have the right to say what goes on their property. While it is understood that the county does have the right of way on this parkway, the only time they should be actually taking access to it is if some infrastructure repairs are needed to be done, or if there's a liability concern as the public access has access to this property. Rossmoor Community Service District wants to put a tree for aesthetics only, and I, as the owner, should have some say in what goes on my property. I understand the county has given the district authority to plant, trim, and remove trees in the medium and parkways. However, nowhere has there been shown to me by the county or the district that it is mandatory that I have a tree in my parkway, and I have no rights to this part of my property. This information has been requested from the district, and still to this day I have not received this. I have many concerns about a tree in my parkway, roots causing damage to the sewer and the water lines, and the cost to repair can be huge and are my responsibility. We are soon going to a drought situation in Southern California with water restrictions sure to come about, and knowing that I am, according to the district, responsible for watering this tree, this just doesn't make sense. I certainly don't appreciate code enforcement being called to find some violations, such as my driveway being too wide, while it was permitted by the county when it was put in. Code enforcement called for having too many cars in my driveway, whereas if you drive around Rossmoor, you will see many houses where this violation exists. Just the intimidation that has been put forward by Joe Mendoza, trying to use this tactic to get homeowners to agree to have a tree put, is just not right. It's a waste of my time, the county code enforcement's time, along with the waste of taxpayers' dollars, all just to get a tree in my parkway. Your January 14th meeting, Mr. Mendoza stated that he only had about 10 or 11 residents he was getting pushback on trees being planted. He also stated that their goal was 100% compliance. Well, if you have approximately 3,500 homes and 10 or 11 residents that are resisting, I would say that you're close to as 100% as you can be. I do not want a tree, and I believe, as a homeowner, my input should have value over Mr. Mendoza's wishes. Some people have a positive view of trees, some are neutral, and some are adverse. The homeowner's perspective should be a primary concern. The only way I would ever consider a tree is if the district would give me a letter saying that they were to be responsible and liable for any root damage to my sewer, main water line, and concrete sidewalk. Keep in mind, the agreement which the county provided to me by Mr. Mendoza expired in 2008. And I've asked for a current or updated version and have not been provided one. I've asked him several times. And I've got some stuff here for you guys. I'm going to give it to you. I want you to review it if you want to. And if you have any questions, you can call me or you can ask me now.
It's not open for discussion due to
Okay.
the public forum, but no, General, I do appreciate you offering, and someone
I'm
will
going to
follow
give
up.
this to
That'd be
Mr.
perfect.
Mendoza. He can distribute it to you. Each one's got your name on it,
All
okay?
right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hearing me.
Yes. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board during public forum? All right, we'll move on to item D, reports to the board. Item D1, Parks and Facilities Maintenance Report. Omero Perez. Welcome, Omero.
Let me do a brief introduction on Omero. Omero's been with the district for 132 years, Omero, is that right? No, how many years? 32?
31, going to
31.
32.
I'm trying to put some levity here to make him relax a little bit. So, no, I just want to say thank you for all your service, and Omero finds ways to fix things and keep things in order at a cost-effective manner, and sometimes he's hands-on, or sometimes we need to hire a contractor, but I want to thank him for always being available and going above and beyond. So he'll give a brief report of this last couple of months. Ready?
Ready. First of all, good evening, everybody. Mr. President, members of the board. I'm here to present my quarterly report to the district. Inspections of district properties. The facilities of Rossmoor, Rush Park, and Montecito Center are fully operational. In Rossmoor Park was having some roofing issues, and we already hired a roofer to do the repairs, and hopefully it doesn't leak anymore. Significant activities in this quarter. The following projects and activities should be noted. These were performed beyond the regularly parks and facility maintenance tasks. District staff added sound panels to the walls in the East Room here at Rush Park. District staff added 4 yards of washed plaster sand to the Rush Park playground. A certified playground installer replaced the broken bridge in the playground here at Rush Park. This bridge was covered under warranty. Also, a different certified playground installer replaced broken slide in the playground here at Rossmoor Park. Electrician replaced 4 LED lights in the basketball court and 2 in the tennis courts. Regular maintenance performed. District staff continues to inspect district properties, and it continues performing maintenance as follows: daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Thank you.
Let's see, Director Maynard, we'll start again back on this side.
Thank you for what you do and putting up with all of us for 32 years. So, thank you for your report. If you had to give grades A, B, or C to, we'll start with our buildings, what would you give the current, our buildings themselves, what grade would you fall on them right now? Thinking about maintenance, what needs in the future, where it's at infrastructure-wise.
I'm gonna say probably an A.
Good.
Yeah.
Buildings and A, okay.
Yeah.
Now, our parks themselves, the grass, the turf, the surfaces, what grade would you give those?
Right now, I will give him an A as well. Right now, they're greening up and they look really nice. Like I said, I will give him an A right now.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard.
Director Shade?
Hi, Omero.
Hi,
Thank
how
you
are
for
you?
being here, and your report is outstanding. I love the details, and you have it broken down into your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, and biannually. It's comprehensive and it's thorough. I appreciate you going through the trouble of putting this together and keeping it together, and everything that you do, as well as your staff. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Director Rimney?
Just a couple questions. In regards to the playground repairs and replacements and things like that, do we have is anyone licensed as an inspector within the district?
Not within the district. We will have to hire outside a certified playground inspector, yeah.
Okay, because I know that they're not required all the time, but with the age of our playgrounds and the number of repairs and replacements we're making, what determines what gets changed and shifted out and when? Is that a general manager decision, or how are we coming up with that?
If I'm correct, when we purchased the Rush Park Playground, it was installed through Miracle Playground in Rossmoor Park, I believe. I'm sorry, Rush Park is Game Time and Rossmoor Park is Miracle Playground. And those companies, they have their own certified playground installers, so we call them, and when we have, let's say, in this case, when they replace the slide, they come and they're the only ones. They got their own installers that are certified to be able to install the equipment.
So how often is a certified inspector looking at them then?
If I will, when there's a change, when there's a change out in a piece of equipment, and especially if it's not the manufactured equipment that it was original. So if we were to change out the bridge, it has to be the original bridge. And when the installer comes out, it's usually a certified playground installer. But the law requires us to have the equipment inspected when it's installed, and that's it.
Okay, yeah, I was asking, oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
after that, it's up to us if we want to have a certified playground instructor. CJPIA, when we first brought them on board, I asked them if they had somebody that could come out, just because I was new and I wanted to make sure. And they did a great job. We have the audit. It was a certified playground inspector. They did it at their cost, and we have all that documentation.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was kind of unclear on that, because I know that the inspections get made that way, but I'm looking at the things that are repaired and replaced. At what point and who decides that needs to be done? Is that done through our weekly, monthly inspections and?
We do weekly, monthly, we do daily inspections, and and if we have to fix something, we fix it, and we do it with the same manufactured parts.
Okay, and that was the question, is who determines when it's okay and needing more? Is that clear?
If it's a major piece that's being replaced.
Okay,
Okay?
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Director DeMarco?
Mara, thank you for the report. Keep
Thank you,
up
Tony.
the good work.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I have, I guess, one question I'll start with. Director Maynard and I met in the capital improvements committee, and one of the items was just, the playgrounds and then the exercise equipment along the path here.
Correct.
Just from a, feelings way, what do you think of the equipment and the use, and, whether it could be the same, better, something different, what are your thoughts on that?
I believe those, you're talking about the exercise machines that we have. Yeah, I believe they were installed through fund, through the county. We're talking about probably like 15 years ago. That's when Mr. Tabora, when Henry Tabora was the general manager. And in my opinion, I believe that they need to be updated. Some people, they do use them, but I mean, there's better equipment up there.
Thank you. And I want to echo the board's appreciation for, the quality of the parks and how the care you take. I know we're seeing a lot more use of all of the parks, and that's great that they handle the conditions well. So thank you, and to the staff.
Yeah, it's amazing to see all these kids in the afternoon playing up there, enjoying.
Well, I think there are some adults using it too, so well done. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll move on to item D2, results of the 2024 satisfaction survey.
Thank you, President Searles and members of the board. I'm going to ask our administrative assistant, Carolyn Wang, to give you this report. She administered the satisfaction survey with SurveyMonkey, and she'll go over some of the results with you.
Good evening, directors. Before you tonight are the results of the satisfaction survey conducted throughout the month of December. We had 250 respondents that indicated they are more than satisfied with the facilities and services that our CSD is offering. There were several comments regarding traffic safety, such as speeding and parking. Street sweeping was also a hot topic, noting the various inconsistencies with time, cleanliness, and ticketing. There were also some comments related to tree issues and park amenities, and requests for new playgrounds, water stations, new exercise clusters, and pet waste bags.
All righty. Director DeMarco, did you have any questions about the satisfaction?
So everything you just brought up, Carolyn,
Yes, sir.
is that in the report? I'm just,
The written comments themselves
Oh,
are
they
not
were- oh,
part,
they
are
were
not
written.
part of the graph.
Oh,
Yeah,
those are the
they
other-
were just informational comments.
so you just said what other
Yes.
comments were about, okay, all right. Yeah, when was our last survey?
22.
22? Okay. No, I don't have any questions right now.
Director Rimney.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Shade.
No questions. Thank you for the report.
Director Maynard.
Thank you. It's good to see. I guess the thing in the future is how to get more participants.
We tried
Because we
all,
got
we tried all kinds
250.
of avenues, I know.
You know,
Yeah.
a community of 10,500, and I know it's a hard thing to do, but
Pay him to do the survey?
yeah, everyone gets $1. Everyone gets free popcorn at the movie night. I don't know, we gotta think of
Yeah,
ways,
I'm not quite sure what the answer is.
because it's great.
I'm just gonna assume that everybody is so happy they don't feel the need to fill out this.
There's a lot of people who say no news is good news,
Right.
but the news that we do have is good too. So
Mhm.
thank you very much.
I would echo, yeah, we as a board will try to explore with better ways to get more responses, but thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome.
I'd like to, all right, so I would like to return briefly to item A4A, recognition of our sponsors. I see Frank Fauci of the Rossmoor Homeowners Association has been able to join us, and so I'd ask if Director Rimney could go ahead and present that to Mr. Fauci. Do you want to do a picture at the wall, the two of you?
Go to the wall, Frank.
Well, Frank, on behalf of the entire Rossmoor Community Services District Board, we'd really want to express our thanks to the Rossmoor Homeowners Association for your generous contribution and generosity.
On behalf of the RHA, yes, we're greatly appreciated by this plaque, and we'll make note of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think you're going to go take a picture in front of the wall now, Frank.
In front of the Rossmoor.
Thank you again. So we're moving back to the agenda at item E, the consent calendar. Consent items are those that are expected to be routine and non-controversial to be acted upon by the Board of Directors at one time. If any board member requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed by the president so that it may be acted upon separately. Are there any items that a director wishes to pull from the consent calendar? All right, I will acknowledge there has been corrections to the minutes of the regular RCSD board meeting, item 1A, just technical naming of who said what was changed. I'd also just want to separately say thank you to staff for the revenue and expenditure reports and all the detail that was provided. So thank you to that. So I guess I move to pass the items on the consent calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. Items of consent calendar are approved. Item F, public hearing, there's none. Regular calendar, G1, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District establishing the mid-year amended budget revenues and expenditures, total amounts for the fiscal year 2024 through 2025. Mr. Mendoza, would you like to further
Thank you.
elaborate?
Yes, thank you, President Searles, members of the board. Let me clarify the way this report was written. We followed last year's, template, and President Searles had asked if we can break this out next time to do the CIP separate, since it was a separate agenda, and by all means, we'll take care of that. But let me give you that report now that's within that, because it's going to lead up to the mid-year budget report. The CIP committee met, and basically, at this meeting that they met at on, I believe, January 21st, it was Directors Searles and Maynard. It was a brainstorming session to talk about capital improvement projects, talk about possibilities, give staff direction to go out and find cost and vendors that we might be interested in, and then come back at a future meeting, I believe that's coming up on March 12th, with that information in order to decide and put in some kind of pecking order things that we want to recommend to the board for the upcoming budget. So that's what we're in the process of doing. Some of the ideas that came out are a result of some of the survey responses and just discussion. One is the canopy project. As you know, we're moving forward to that. The other one is research cost and replacement of exercise clusters at Rush Park. So that was the discussion we had with Omero a minute ago. Research upgrade of electrical panel at Rush Park, and part of that was some kind of outlet, a 220 or whatever we would need by the stage. So Omero is working with an electrician to get a cost that would entail putting a conduit from our main box here out to the stage area that would be there securely and professionally installed in order for us to plug into for their bands and things like that, where we wouldn't need a loud generator, and we wouldn't need to rent a huge generator for those concerts we do. So that's another area that we'll present to the CIP committee. The other one is research. Oh, let me go back a minute. President Cyril's had a great idea. You know, we just saw the fires and we saw the situations up in the Palisades and Altadena. As a backup generator for this facility and for Rossmoor and probably for Montecito to get a cost, what we would need to install one in case we had a major catastrophe or some kind of power outage here in Rossmoor for an extended period of time, that we can at least fire up these buildings so people can come in and have a place to go. So we're looking at that also. So the other one is research cost and replacement of Rossmoor playground equipment. I've already done that. I'll have a report to the CIP committee coming up March 12th. Research cost of installing dog walker waste bags at all the parks. As you know, we do have a lot of residents that walk their dogs, and that would be a nice amenity. Research refurbishment of the kitchen and our restrooms at all the parks. And research costs to install refillable water bottle stations at both Rush and Rossmoor parks, along with doggy stations where the dogs can get a drink and then the patrons can fill their water bottles up. All this is being researched. We're close to having the numbers and the specifications. And I talked to Janet Wynn's office today about possible getting some funding from them and putting this on some type of priority list for us. And they acknowledged to please do that. And as you know, Andrew Doe unfortunately didn't take care of business too well, and he left her high and dry with not much money in her coffers. But she does get money again July 1st, just like we do. So I'm putting together a letter from President Cyrils. I'll have him proof it, and we'll give them a request for some funding to help, maybe help out with some of this. And they have discretionary money that and so does the Assembly and Senator. So we'll see if we can get some help there. But that concludes my CIP report. We will come back to the board on, I believe, March 19th, after the March 12th CIP committee meets and prioritizes these. And if you have any additions to them, I have one. I've already talked to the captain today and to the license plate reader company to give me a cost to putting license plate readers out in the street. But again, I talked to Janet Wynn's office because another supervisor had funded a number of districts and cities throughout the county in purchasing those. So we're looking for ways to offset some of our costs. That's my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions regarding the CIP committee? I guess Director Maynard and I would be happy to answer. Michael, did you have anything you wanted to add first?
We had a meeting, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago.
You come toward your mic.
Oh. Yeah, we had a CIP, and the main agenda was, we have a mid-year budget, which is item G1, and is there anything that's overly pressing that we need to bring to the budget committee to bring back as we make adjustments mid-year? And the answer was no. But there are things that we do want to ferret out and look in for next year's budget. So from a CIP committee, and correct me if I'm misstating this, the actions and the path that we're on is proceeding, and there isn't any incremental capital improvement monies required to close out this year's budget.
I agree. Thank you. Director Shea, do you have any questions?
No, not really. I like all the ideas and everything that's come out of the meeting. You guys came up with some wonderful things to add in. The refillable water stations for people and dogs, that's great. I love that. The generator for the entertainment, that's something that is definitely needed. Emergency generator for our parks, and I'm sure if something were to happen in Rossmoor, God forbid, we'd want to have some sort of availability for for energy and playground equipment, all that's great. I loved it. Thank you very much.
Director Rimney?
Yeah, a couple comments on it. I know at one point in time, former Director Rips had requested a master plan to be able to do a 5-year plan in it, because we're looking at this, in my opinion, a lot of things is very piecemeal, and some of these things need to be in, they're great ideas. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd like to bring to the conversation is to consider adding exercise clusters to Rossmoor Park. They were in the original renderings that were done at replacement of the parks after the 2014-15 replacements in Rush Park, and they've got their exercise clusters. And we're still looking at equipment in Rossmoor Park that is long out of warranty, is the second piece. And just a request that we pay attention that they are ADA not only compliant but friendly, because I think that there's some really great pieces of equipment that would serve particularly our senior population moving forward. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the exercise equipment.
Thank you. Director DeMarco?
Joe, didn't we have a document that showed the life of, when we repaired things and the expected life expectancy? What was it? Was that part of CIP or
No,
was that?
that would, I have that. That's something we put together. I use that as a basis to look at certain pieces of equipment.
That need to be replaced?
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I also want to point out that we're looking for ways to offset that, of course. We're always trying to protect our reserves and make sure that we're being fiscally responsible. I've already met with a grant writer who we're meeting with Lena coming up, because we want to combine this. It's a land and water conservation grant that we are eligible for, and it's a 50% match, I think, if I remember correctly. And I'm meeting with Lena, the LAGSL, scouts, people that use Rossmoor Park, to show that they are being used and who will be using it to make us better, I guess, qualified for the grant. And so it's not due for months, but we're already working on that. And the board had given me the go-ahead to work with California consultants in preparing grants. So we're in the process of doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd also caution you on that grant in particular that the 50% match is there, but there's also a requirement for deeding a portion of it in perpetuity to the federal government, because it is a federal loan. So pay close attention to the terms in addition to the money.
Definitely. Okay.
No further comments on this.
Okay. I guess I would suggest, then, Director Rimney, that you work with Mr. Mendoza and Lena now. I know you have a great relationship with her and with our transition with General Manager. If this is a grant that's going to take years to get through, or months, that we have someone who's familiar in-house with the process. I would appreciate that if you can work together on that. And then, Director DeMarco, we did have in our CIP meeting, part of our agenda was that document, okay, with the workouts of when things came on, when they were replaced.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah, no, it's great to have that document.
Yep.
And as to your question, I believe about I apologize for not remembering who it was. Director Maynard and I did discuss also having more of a town hall format for our CIP planning and master plan. I guess it was you talking about, Director Rips. Because we want all the directors to be involved in the CIP plan. Just because you have a committee, we don't want to be precluded from being able to have every director's input on the ideas. And we also think that would also possibly drive more of the community to come and say what they want. So we're looking at that as a possible option, as a way to get the CIP plan or CIP committee into a larger master plan of our capital improvements. So, thank you. Mr. Mendoza, would you like to go ahead and move along with the budget portion?
Sure. At this time, I'd like to ask that our accountant, Michael Matsumoto, come up regarding the mid-year budget adjustments. I want to thank Michael. As you know, his contract is running out at the end of February, and I've learned a lot from him, and he's been very good to Rossmoor and good for Rossmoor. He turned us over to a different program with Black Mountain, and has also been very diligent about building our reserves, and we're in constant contact, and looking at how we spend and the patterns we do, and I just want to thank him for his service.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to go over the highlights of the mid-year budget review. We looked at the revenues and expenses through December. I do want to let you know that property taxes did not look good at the end of December. Your December property tax remittance was the lowest it had been in 5 years. But your January remittance was more than double what it had been in any of the prior five years. And at the end of January, you were up more than 4% over the prior year. In our budget, we typically budget 3.5% increase on property taxes. So being up 4%, it looks like you're going to beat our estimates by a little bit. So generally, we looked at December 31st with the shocking results in December with the property tax. And it wasn't just Rossmoor, it was in many cities in Orange County. So I don't know what happened with the property taxes, but it looks like you're back on track. So revenues, we're projecting an additional $27,700. Got basically a realignment of $11,000 from the supplemental with fewer property sales. The supplemental property taxes are coming in lower, and so, but we're still going to get more than the 3.5%. Looks like we're getting a little over 4. We're not really going up in property tax other than $10,000, but we moved the supplemental, lowered that and put that into the secured. And then we looked at some other revenue items. The pickleball reservations, we've already exceeded the budget for the year. Pickleball was relatively new last year. We were kind of guessing as to how much, so we are increasing it, but we think that it's a conservative estimate and we'll probably exceed that budget amount. The pickleball instructor, we had expected more, and we're tracking quite a bit less. We expected like $3,000 in revenue. We really didn't have a basis for that. We just kind of threw out a number, and it looked like we got about $300 through, $300 and some odd dollars through the end of December. So we went to $700 estimate, which brought the estimate down by $2,300. And so the revenue estimates increase revenue by $27,700. Now we have a number of expenditure estimates which increased by $39,250. The largest one I believe is $12,000 for salaries, and that is due to the likely retirement of your general manager. He has accrued leave balances. We generally budget for the salaries that are going to be paid, but we didn't budget for the leave payout, and since he's entitled to cash out his leave balances, we've added $12,000 to the administrative salaries.
Mike, can I interrupt you there?
Certainly.
Is that something as a board we should have? I mean, not to say, I mean, we might discuss a policy, but just from an accounting perspective, how do we not get in that position? You know, because we wouldn't, I would say we wouldn't know as a board necessarily that we had a staff member with that much, you know, accrual, especially when we're running a July to June calendar, and they're working on a January to December calendar, just to avoid this moment. I mean, how do we account for that?
Well, I don't think there's an easy solution. On your financial statements, we include a liability for the compensated absences, and it includes all the full-time employees, and I guess there's some leave for part-time employees too. Not as much as the full-time employees. And if you look at your audited financial statements, you'll see we've got a compensated absences of about $45,000, $50,000 as a liability. Unfortunately, the audit and their general ledger don't necessarily line up with your budget, because we budget for an annual basis of what we think revenues coming in and expenditures going out are going to be. And so the audited financial statements allow for, hey, you've got this liability that's out there that hasn't been paid, so we put it in the audit report. But the budget doesn't really have a place for that.
Thank you. Go ahead. I apologize for the interruption.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. The other large item is building and ground maintenance. You've got some unforeseen electrical, irrigation, some turf vandalism, and playground equipment, and so proposing to add $10,000 to building and ground maintenance. And if you have any questions about any of the others, I guess the other large one would be $8,000 to community events, and that's basically due to some enhanced programming.
If I may, Michael, President Searles, there's another one that just popped up, and it came up in
Can you
the...
bring the mic a little closer, Mr. Mendoza?
There's another request that came up in the mid-year, and that was Shakespeare. Shakespeare in the past, I think years ago when I first got here, we were supplementing them and giving them a per diem for running Shakespeare. When COVID hit, we kind of rethought our reserves and rethought our way we're spending money. And for the last 3 or 4 years, I believe Shakespeare has been coming out and doing the program for free. We said we didn't feel that we needed to supplement them. They take donations on the spot. They take donations throughout the county. I get a letter at home with a donation request with an envelope to send in. So I felt that they were probably being reciprocated fine, and it showed that they were. They've been doing it for free. This year, they came to us again. I asked them to come tonight. They couldn't. They were going to another city requesting funds. I know when I was with the county, Shakespeare by the Sea was funded by different entities. Supervisor's office, I called Supervisor Wynn today to ask if they have a history of supporting them and giving donations to them. I know with the County of LA, Janice Hahn and Supervisor Kanavi was always giving them money to perform in the parks. So I don't know, where they're getting their funds, but they have come to us. And they have June 26th, 27th, and 28th open, or July 5th. And their cost that they're giving us is one performance, $7,500, two performances, $9,000. So that's what they're asking in reciprocation for coming out this year. So I just want to throw that out. I have no horse in this race. All I know is in the past they've been complimenting us on. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Look, aren't they normally always July?
This is what they have left, they said. This is what the openings they have left. So they have June 26th, 27th, 28th, July 5th. Now, last year we did it July, two dates.
I thought it was always around July.
Yeah. Okay.
Director Remney, did you have something you wanted to add to Mr. Mendoza's report?
Yeah, I've been talking back and forth with them for several years, and the premise of Shakespeare in the Park is that does not cost anyone, and it is free to everybody, and it's by donation. The community passes the hat, they raise money, they do what they can, and the $7,000 to $9,000 is the shortfall between what it costs to run the program and what was brought in. In the past, there's been I believe in 2021, the district contributed $4,500. In 2022, it was $3,000. 2 years after that, they received nothing. And this year, I was told that without being able to know that they're not going to be left with a shortfall, they wouldn't be able to schedule dates here. And the consideration of that is twofold. One is they're working very hard and they're getting more outside grants, and so it's getting more competitive. Many of them are in Los Angeles County. We're one of the only facilities in this area in Orange County. And the other thing is their costs have increased substantially. In looking at their 990 forms, because of state law, they are now required to pay their actors wages that meet with state requirements. And so that's left them that they're having to clear deficits from last year. So it's going to cost more than $7,000 to $9,000 to run it, because that's the deficit from last year. But they're confident that with a commitment from the district that Rossmoor will continue to be as generous as it has been in the past. And I would like to offer it is, it's a family-oriented type of a situation, and very popular. And so as a, not alternative, but in addition to the types of things we offer, I think it's something, particularly with the legacy of as long as we've had it, that it's something definitely worth considering. And we are continuing to raise outside funds for it. So I would like to request that that be continued and supported, because we are at risk at not having them in our parks, and I would hate to see that.
All right. Yes, Mike,
Yes.
you have more you'd like to add?
Yes. The dates that Joe suggested, some in June and then some available in July. If you were to have them in July, those should be included in next year's budget. If you want them in June, I would recommend putting the an amendment
Mid-year,
in the mid-year, which we're considering right now. So if you do want them, if you let us know the dates, and you say you want June, you want 2 performances, then we add $9,000 to the community events to the mid-year for this year. If you say you want them in July like they've traditionally been, then I'll make the note and put them in the preliminary budget for next year and not put them in the mid-year this year.
Thank you. Mike, could you summarize the mid-year adjustments you're looking at from a kind of like where we're at a net position?
Yes. You adopted an original budget that had a surplus of $87,900, and with these mid-year budget adjustments, you have a surplus of $76,360. Now, we tend to be conservative in the way we budget, so your revenues do tend to come in higher than we have projected. So I would expect that your actual surplus will exceed these numbers.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just make a clarification on that? The 2 dates on it is to get 2 performances, because they only set up one. So if you're looking at the July date, we're looking at 1 performance. It's just a clarification.
President Searles?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just
Director
a
DeMarco.
question.
Yeah.
Did we discuss this at our budget meeting, the Shakespeare?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, so this is to come in after?
Right about this time, Chris is the go-between. And so they came to us, I told them I had no funds budgeted, and they requested in writing that we provide them with these funds. And somewhat said, if there's one available, we'll come, or there's 2 available, we'll come, but we can't guarantee it. We're out searching for sites. Now, in the past, we give them the site, we provide them the staff. Carolyn last year, I think, did a QR code, and they were able to request, I guess, sponsors from our local businesses and nonprofits and things like that. And I think RHA might have gave them $1,000 check.
It's budgeted this
So,
year, too, to help.
yeah, so,
All right. So, all right, so I just wanted the board to know that this is something new outside of our mid-year meeting that came up. So this is the first I've heard of the 75 and 9,000, that they're for the 1 and 2.
no, I don't know how
performances.
much negotiation we have on that,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I mean,
Maybe Director Remnant, have you talked to them about a fee or anything?
I was informed back in November that conversations were starting, but I don't get involved in your day-to-day, so I didn't follow up on what it was, where it was, and what was offered or not offered, so I wasn't involved in it beyond they wanted to be here, because they always had. So it's, can't really add anything to that.
Okay.
Director Maynard, any questions?
When did we hear about this? Because this is coming on us tonight. You just had a meeting like a week ago. So this is very fresh, very new.
No, I think
But
that-
you're saying you've known about issues since November. Do you sit on their board? What's your relationship with them? Just because I am confused.
Okay.
What's your relationship with the Shakespearean people?
My relationship with them is through the RHA, we were sponsors last year,
Okay.
helping them out and doing what we could. And so it's more a matter of we help them raise funds where we can because it is the arts and we do like to support it. Have no interest in it, do not sit on any boards. And I believe the reason it came late is we were talking in another one of the committee meetings and I didn't realize that the request to put it in there could be made because I consider it a day-to-day type thing and not really was responding to your budget as opposed to requesting into the budget, and that's a learn by doing. I'm not really familiar, and when General Manager Mendoza said you could introduce that to the midterm, I thought it was a good idea, and you accommodated that, and I thought it was a great suggestion to be able to do that. And it's definitely worth bringing up for consideration, and we'll see what happens.
So ideally, this would have been great for the two of you if it came to you,
Yeah.
but it's now the whole board. We're here anyway. But I'm just curious since you are both on the budget, are you both thinking that this is something we would want to put in this year's budget?
I don't think,
Or
I mean,
next year's budget, or a little bit of both? You know?
if you're asking me right this second, I don't think we have enough information for this year's budget. Okay, now, we've had it in the past. Joe just said we've done 5,000 donation in 22, 3,500, and then we stopped. Prior to that,
I don't recall.
maybe Director Imnate said it. So, because I know we've contributed in the past. I know that, and again, this is off of memory, that we might have asked for some information from them, you know, how much they collect in donations from Rossmoor and stuff like that, because, you know, we're just a small district. You know, we're paying them to come. You know, it's just like anything else is, you know, how many residents come to their venue. Certainly, I've been to it one time. It's entertaining. Do we want to spend $9,000 for two? I don't know. I don't have enough information for this mid-year. I would want to ask some questions to them, possibly. For next year, it's certainly a consideration.
If I may, I don't know how much negotiating power I have. I don't know where we're at with that, but if tonight they have 3 performances they're saying that's available during June. I don't know if there's more or if there's more in July. But they're telling me there's 4 performances left. If tonight, if we're really interested in we think we might lose it, which I don't think so, but you know, that's up to the board. You might give me a cap to start negotiating and then ask them to fundraise the rest. I don't know, but or you can fund the whole thing. It's up to the board completely.
Yeah. Well, personally, I'm not comfortable when we're on the agenda for a resolution that's already typed, that's already been vetted by committee, that's bringing here, to make such a wild card decision. But I do think it's worthwhile for our next year budget, which would line up with July. And I think that you probably should. This is just my opinion that I'm putting out there. I think this is just being pushed upon us. Doesn't make it practical to vote on it for tonight, but I'm very comfortable with the budget committee bringing a new budget for next year, which includes it.
If I could get a clarification from Tarquin, Do we need to take any board action to give the general manager authority to negotiate at a level above, say, $5,000, if that were, is there a number at which the board has to, ratify in a vote with an agendized item?
Thank you, Director Seals. My understanding is the general manager's authority is $5,000. Anything above that would require ratification or direction from the board.
And that would require it to be agendized?
Correct. To take action, approve the payment of money would require it to be agendized.
Are you asking, President Searles, are you asking to negotiate in this fiscal year?
Right. If we were to essentially separate the approval of the mid-year budget that you have, while also understanding that separately the general manager would have authority to go for a different amount for the Shakespeare, or if it needs to be all in one. And it appears it would need to be all in one because anything above 5,000 would need to be an agendized item. And I just think that matters for your discussion about whether something that's outside of the mid-year budget in the committee showing up, if that's going to be an issue to you or not. I just want to make sure this would be, if we wanted to give the general manager authority to discuss anything over 5,000, it would have to be part of our approval of the mid-year budget.
That was confusing.
Is that not correct?
So, just so I understand correctly, you wish to give, perhaps you can describe the actual action.
Say we wanted to give Mr. Mendoza 7,500 because that's over 5,000. That cannot be done in a separate action at tonight's meeting, but we could ratify a resolution that includes this budget, and in that could be that there's 7,500 available for him to approach them for an offer.
Is that resolution on the agenda tonight? Would the board be modifying the
We could
resolution?
modify the resolution that's on the agenda, correct?
Yes, you can modify the resolution that's on the agenda.
Okay.
If I may, we have a resolution that's intact. I would be comfortable with knowing that I have up to a $5,000 authority to go ahead and negotiate one or two plays and see if that works. I can always give that to the board.
Go ahead, Director Rumnagel, you just make a point.
I don't think the 7,500, 9,000 is a hard and fast, and I too, and I'm comfortable with throwing in something last minute to be able to do that, but to be able to put the good faith efforts that we're doing something, 3, 4, 5, just room to be able to talk with them to commit that we would like to have a date, I think would be an important thing to do, because we can address it in next year's budget moving forward. And we would stand a better chance of having them in the park if we were to work with them to indicate that we want them there. We're continuing to work with the community to secure private donations. And the more we get, because I do believe that the community, one, is generous, two, wants it there. And it's a good thing for those who have funds here to contribute to the arts to do so. So I don't think we would want to be altering or changing anything, and so something below the $5,000 figure, just to be able to give you a place to work from, I think would be reasonable.
And in addition, just talking about this, remembering a little more of the facts, and what Joe just said, I remember the year we didn't fund it a few years ago, they still came back, So again, so it's the art in negotiation, and what is truly what they're telling us and truly what the facts are, I don't know. God, we're not looking at their books. We have no idea what they make or what their, how much of a loss is to come to Rossmoor. But they like coming to Rossmoor. They come here a lot. So I would say let Joe negotiate with them and get, again, the benefit to Rossmoor residents is to have them here. And the benefit to our financials is to do it at, the least amount of money we can negotiate a deal with. And the last 2 years, we didn't.
I think 2 or 3 now, since COVID.
Yeah,
I forget.
it changed after COVID, yes.
Do we have a consensus on that? giving the general manager the authority to have that discussion. And
As a separate, it's not on the agenda, but yeah, I'm okay with him working this, but we have a resolution in
right,
front
no,
of us.
I'm not done with the item yet, no.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't, because worst case scenario is a budget, a mid-year, as long as we have notations of why things go under budget, why we have excess, why we have decreases, the board still has the authority in between now and June to take whatever financial decisions we would like to make on the behalf of the community. I just didn't want to all of a sudden on the fly alter these resolutions for the budget and what the committee has already met and is recommending to us.
I think everyone agrees with that.
Okay, all right.
Any further questions? And then now to Mike, if there is a $5,000, additional expenditure, I mean, we're at 76,000 conservatively, now it's at 71,000. Is that a comfortable position?
Yes, yes, I feel very comfortable with that.
Okay. And Director Shea, do you have any questions for Mr. Matsumoto?
No, I don't. I agree with the whole, everything that Mary Ann is saying, and Director Michael and Tony, I completely agree. I think that it's a good thing to go for it and just see what we can negotiate, set a starting point, keep it on the table, and move forward. But thank you.
Director Maynard, did you have any further questions?
No.
Any?
So all we're doing, so Mr. Mendoza is going to negotiate. If he can negotiate something in June, it's going to come back in March or April for us to look at whatever he negotiated.
June or
right?
July, it should come back in
Yeah,
March
true.
or April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's in July, then it's going to be in next year's budget. And that-
Exactly.
So the budget committee, we're going to be able to put a line item in if we so choose to recommend that to the board. But now until June 30th, that's really what we're giving him. Although he's going to negotiate, maybe negotiating for next year, but we're just opening the door to negotiate a deal to, I think that's kind of the consensus, what I'm hearing, that,
Yes.
sure, we want him here, let's go negotiate, let's see what the deal would be and we're just letting Joe go with, negotiating with them.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Saying the board talked about it, the
Yep.
board values culture, you know?
It's not much different than talking with
So-
health and wellness.
Yep,
the way he does.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike,
I'm
one of the
good.
items I didn't notice was the retirement participation. Have we had, employees who are using the additional retirement program that we adopted?
That's the deferred compensation match.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know that everyone has taken full advantage of it, but I know a number of people, a number of the full-time employees have.
May I?
Yes, thank you, Carolyn.
All eligible employees have signed up.
Okay.
Great.
And so do we know what that's cost us so far and what we're looking at that for June?
I believe the first payment actually was December. Took a while to get that set up, so I don't have numbers what the cost. It'll be less than the budget.
The annual cost was 10,000 and some change, so it's probably half that.
That's about what we budgeted. It was 10,000 something, and I don't remember 10,006, 10,008, something like that is the amount we budgeted. And I guess since we started December, I think it was December 30th, you might have slightly over half the year, but I have not done a calculation, and I didn't verify that everyone who was eligible actually did enroll, but it sounds like they have.
Did you guys have that in your meeting?
I think,
You mean what we're budgeted for the?
Yeah, because we didn't have that wasn't in our original budget, so I'm asking if it was addressed in the.
I don't.
It's in here. It's a
It
deferred
is.
compensation
No,
match.
we had it in the budget,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, it's $10,900.
That's what's budgeted,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
10,900 in the
And it-
original budget.
So
but
we're only
in
gonna,
midterm,
we're gonna probably only use about half
And-
that, I believe.
So in December, all of them, or everyone that's eligible,
All full-time
all,
employees.
okay. And assuming that they're maxing isn't it 3%?
Yes.
Okay. Then that's the 10.6, and if you started in December, it's going to be half the year, yeah.
It'll be slightly more than half the year because it was, let's say, half of December and then the next 6. So it'll be 6.5/12.
Okay.
But again, you're comfortable that additional cost won't be an issue for, our budget through June?
The employee deferred compensation was in the budget, and I'm confident you won't reach the full amount because in the budget, we anticipated starting at July 1.
Yeah.
And since it started in December, you won't get, you'll probably slightly exceed half.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think, just a curiosity question, between now and then the end of the year, the 8,000 in additional community events, what do we have between now and June?
Health and wellness.
Was that
and
budgeted
there's-
in last year?
And there's one festival in June.
Was that in last year's budget, or in the budget already?
No. We just
Ah.
encumbered it.
Okay.
What, the June one, was it?
No, the June is, but the health and wellness, we added that, yeah.
I thought we had it in last year.
It might be in there, I'd have to look.
Okay, yeah, because I think overall what we looked at was not constraining his day-to-day request for what he was doing, and I think we were comfortable with revenues coming in and the request that was out, and considering where we were at, I think we were looking at making a recommendation, and unless we have some extensive other questions, I'd be comfortable to move a recommendation of it.
Yep.
Or let you,
You
either
can.
way.
Yep. Yeah, if there's anyone,
No, we're good. You going to second? Somebody?
sure,
Second.
let's
You
move.
can move. I'll
I'll
second.
move to adopt resolution 2502-1101, a resolution of Board of Directors of Rossmoor Community Service District to establish mid-year amended budget revenue.
I'll second.
Roll call vote?
A roll call vote. Director Maynard?
Aye.
Director Shade?
Aye.
Director Remney?
Aye.
Director DeMarco?
Aye.
President Searles?
Aye. Thank you all. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Started CIP, that was a windy road, guys.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item G2, discussion and possible action reauthorizing the general manager to enter into a one-year professional services agreement with Platinum Strategies Incorporated for accounting services. Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you, President Searles and members of the board. As you know, we will be saying farewell to Government Financial Services and Michael Matsumoto on February 28th. In the interim, we started a recruitment process. I forget what month it was, but we thought we had a candidate and a very viable candidate that we found through CSDA and LAFCO, who was doing their books, and we found that after negotiating and prior to bringing it to the board with our attorney, that the liability issues within the contract they weren't ready to agree to. So we lost that vendor. In the interim, we jumped to it and we called CSDA again, received a list of vendors that we went out and asked for requests for proposals. And after dissecting the requests for proposals that came in, doing reference checks and looking at their cost, their annual fees, we have picked Platinum Strategies. And the Budget Committee has met with Platinum Strategies this month, and with us tonight is Josh. Josh, I'm going to butcher your name. Bynum? Byram. And Josh is here tonight to answer any questions. He's well qualified. He's a CPA, certified CPA. He has come in at $49,200, so that would bring our annual salary down by $24,960. And the reason for that is, and I'm sorry Michael left the room, but we had paid Michael at a higher rate because he had done a lot of extra work for us. He had changed over our whole program from one to another, and we went with Black Mountain, and he changed a lot of structuring And so now that we have a system that's pretty streamlined, and Michael did a great job, Josh has looked at it. He has given us a bid on it. We have some time for Josh to overlap with Michael since it's February 28th, and they have sat there tonight. I'm sure they talked about some dates that they can get some cross-training. In the interim, I turned Josh on to a Black Mountain workshop that he is going to sign up and attend, and so he can get familiarized with that program. He's worked with it in the past a little bit, but, you know, all accounting, it's just a matter of becoming familiar with it. I'm sure he's well qualified to do that. So tonight, I'd like to ask the board to consider bringing Josh on, and his company is Platinum Strategies Incorporated, and I brought him here with us tonight to answer any questions. So that pretty much finalizes my report, and I'll turn it over to the board to ask Josh any questions, or myself. Thank you.
Okay. First, I'd ask if the committee, Director DeMarco and Director Remne would like to discuss.
Yeah, it wasn't the budget.
Oh, it was budget?
Personnel contract.
Oh,
I'm
so
sorry, yeah, personnel and contract. You're absolutely right. Sorry.
Director Shade and Director Remne. So if you'd like to kind of share your thoughts.
I'll let Director Remney start it off, and then I'll jump in, because I've got some notes as well.
I find you well qualified, and I think can do a great job. My concerns are twofold. One is the timing of transitioning a general manager and the person overseeing their finances at the same time is tricky, doable, but it was a concern. And I think that was the main reason we were looking at not putting forth a recommendation, but bringing it to the board to be able to consider all the constraints that were in there. The other consideration that I have, another one is I didn't see a contract or any information about this. So when you're looking at this now, this is what I was looking at, because we didn't have a contract to look at. We were looking at templates from last year. So we did the best we could, and I think we've done a pretty good job at that. And my main consideration is the last item, grant reporting and compliance, is out of scope of this contract, and we are wrapping up the Prop 68 grant. And if it's out of scope, it's, in my opinion, critical that we do that properly, because it will be looked at through California Parks and the State Controller's Office. And there are extra steps that need to be taken, and in the past, California Grant Consulting did a considerable amount of work on it. In the past couple of years, they've, I believe, through looking at warrants, there's been $12,000 to $15,000 in processing various things involved, having a grant specialist involved in it. So when we're looking at this contract, there's nothing wrong with the contract, just be aware that there could be additional fees on top of this that we have to consider.
Director Shade.
Thank you, Director Remney. All the research that she's done into this and looking into, and Josh, thank you for coming and being patient with us tonight this evening. Everything that Ms. Remney was pointing out and mentioning to us as a board is of great concern. The grant situation that is out of scope, that is not something that you do, is that correct?
It is something I do. Grants are something I do. It depends on the grant. And the reason I say it's out of my scope is I have encountered a few grants, and they have taken quite a large amount of time for the compliance, because I'm coming in here, I don't fully understand the nuances. I know Mike, I've talked with him, I believe he's a sound accountant. Just from history, I've walked into agencies and had a lot of cleanup work to do. I don't believe that's the case. So as far as working with grants, I can absolutely work with grants under the scope as it stands, which is providing the financial information, as well as assisting in the documents of, I don't know if you're doing quarterly or annual reporting, but assisting with that. I can certainly do that. It's more just the cleanup work. So, for example, I've walked into a client, and they were doing 50% match. They weren't actually doing 50% match. They didn't have the records. They didn't have it documented. And so there was a lot of work trying to go back through multitude, it was a couple years of invoices to gather the backup documentation. It's also making sure that you're in compliance, resubmitting some of the grant receipts that you have to ensure compliance with that granting agency, and that was through the Department of Water Resources. And so that's why, again, not knowing what I'm walking into exactly, that's why I typically list it out of scope. If you have a grant, it's already being adhered to, that's going to fall within the general scope. It's more just the issues I've walked into from the past.
Okay. That being said, I agree. Thank you very much for that. I also think that the whole contract issue, if we have questions on that, that's something that we need to address as well. We haven't, like Director Renme mentioned, that we didn't see the actual contract, but I believe that Joe said that
What you had before you
it was the same.
was Michael Matsumoto's contract, and it was just a template. It was the same. All we did was change out the numbers. Yes, as I
Okay,
explained.
so that's something to,
And that was, I believe,
Take into
our attorney, Preziosi, can kind of step in here, because on all these contracts, we gave you last year's contract. We're always looking to save time and money, so we didn't want to have Tarquin double do a contract. So we showed you what the last year's contract was and explained what would be in there if there was any changes. So you had a template, and you had the definitions and the list of items that would be different in there. Am I right?
Thank you, thank you, General Manager Mendoza. So in substance, General Manager Mendoza is absolutely correct. The main changes, the revisions to this agreement with Platinum Strategies, it mirrors what Mike Matsumoto's contract was. It's been changed slightly because we discussed with our insurance carrier, CJPIA, and they had certain provisions that wanted to, limits of insurance and types of insurance they wanted in the contract. So that has changed slightly. And then, of course, his scope of work, Mr. Byram's scope of work is different, but that's attached as an exhibit. But otherwise, the contract is substantially the same.
okay, so just to clarify, the differences on the contract from the template is going to be basically the dates, I mean, the year.
Correct. The substantive difference is, obviously, it's a now agreement. It's the years. It's the
vendor.
It's the vendor. It's the insurance requirements, as recommended by CJPIA, and the actual scope of work that Platinum Strategies provided, and the price.
Just so we have a clear understanding. Okay, thank you.
One question as a possible solution on that is, out-of-scope fees are based on the amount of time and the hourly rate and the work involved in it, because your crystal ball and my crystal ball, we know what those are like. Is there a way of putting a cap on that so that we don't run into trouble with if the grant should be Pandora's box?
Any changes in that contract, I believe, would go through a separate contract. So if there was, like Mr. Mendoza said, you guys implemented a rate, or sorry, not a rate, a new financial system. That is definitely a big burden, a big, I don't want to say too intensive, but it is a lot of time and energy and effort. That is something that I would talk with staff and bring back as a contract. So that's not, anything that's, I believe, out of scope, we're going to discuss and then bring it back to you.
Oh, I'm just looking at it as a way to go forward as opposed to not being comfortable here, because I think there are solutions moving forward. So that's just a hypothetical in that.
Director DeMarco, did you have any questions?
I guess I'll ask Joe. Joe, the day-to-day, what Mike Matsumoto was doing and now what Josh is going to be doing is pretty much going to be the same in terms of the amount of time
Yes.
and coming in.
Yes, we've already went over that with Josh.
And this is a at-will contract, or is it a one-year contract?
I believe there's a clause, a 30-day or...
Okay, which is normal for
Right.
ours, right, Tarquin?
Right.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't have any particular questions. I mean, again, I'm sure you've been vetted with Mr. Mendoza, Josh, and our two board members. And you're familiar with the program that we use?
I am. It has, I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've used that, but I've probably used 7 or 8 different financial systems.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they all work the same. On occasion, you have to push an F11 button to pull up a report, but that's about
I
it.
remember deciding the program, and we did, it was like, I don't know, we didn't know which one to choose,
Absolutely.
So, okay, I don't see any reason why not to move forward. The committee is recommending Josh?
I would put it, rather than the committee, I think it's a staff recommendation, and we serve at the pleasure of the vote. I'm comfortable with that.
Right.
But you guys met, you
Yeah.
guys were a contract committee,
Yeah.
we're counting on committees to vet.
We
That's-
wanted you.
Okay.
Which is why we brought it forward.
I've got a
Director
couple
Maynard.
questions. Are you familiar with our auditing firm, Rams?
I am, yes.
You've worked with them?
I've worked with Rams. I haven't worked with them, it's probably been about 4 years since I've worked with them, but yeah, I'm familiar with all the different auditing firms,
Okay.
Rams, CJ Brown, Poon Group's not around anymore, but yes, I am familiar with Rams.
Okay, and I see that you're the partner at 200 an hour, you have a payroll specialist, and then an associate, so it's a team of 3 of you working specifically for Rossmoor?
There would be a team. Initially, it's going to be me. I'm going to come in, I'm
You're
going
gonna take
to
all these roles.
understand
Okay.
all these issues. I do have 2 different people. I have a retired person who works with me,
Mhm.
and they do more of the payroll as well as interim work. And interim means finance director retires or leaves. There's a 2-month gap between hiring or someone leaving. And so they will fill in for that or unforeseen circumstances. But they also are a payroll specialist, certified payroll professional. I do have as well as a technician, and they handle some of the lower level duties. Right now it's a part-time student looking to graduate actually in June, so that'll be exciting, hoping to come on board full-time and truly assist with the accounting functions.
So when you work on behalf of Rossmoor, do you put on the hat that says partner, time clock, 200 billable hour, then all of a sudden, whoa, I'm now doing payroll stuff, different hat, I'm now charging Rossmoor 175, or your involvement is at 200 flat rate?
It is a flat rate for my rate, but what I negotiated is a monthly fee.
Okay,
And so regardless if I spend 80 hours here, I'm going to charge you that flat fee.
okay.
And so it doesn't matter if I do the work, accounting technician, it's the flat fee that we've negotiated. It's just the 200 hours would be if we were to do something else outside of that scope. For
Oh,
example,
okay.
a new financial system.
Thanks for clarifying that, because I didn't pick up on that, thank you. That's all I got.
All right. Josh, thank you. I wanted to ask, in our agenda packet, we had revenue and expenditure reports for the month and then warrants for another month. Were you able to review those, and how comfortable are you in producing those every month for our meetings?
I did briefly review, and it looks like some reports are generated directly from the system. Some it looks like is a data manipulation through Excel. So completely competent that I could take on that. Plus, as well as having Mike still on board through the end of February. It sounds like we might not be able to meet tomorrow, but we'll be meeting every single week until his last date, which will give us time to do that. And granted, I could take this on without that assistance, but from my experience, it helps a lot to have that transition. So
Definitely.
that would be a huge benefit.
Perfect, thank you. Director Remne?
Since you did review it, and I
Can you-
noticed
Can you
I'm
speak in the
sorry.
mic?
I noticed in the other contract, there was like a 2-month delay, and it explains that because you're working at 2 different systems. Do you think there's any possibility of reconciling that to shorten the timeframes that we're looking at, the leaps between our expenses, our warrants, our budgets, and all of that?
I can certainly take a look at that and evaluate it. At times, what I've seen at agencies is it's hard, it's easy to get the warrant register because you can just print that from the system. The problem is at times the financial system. So you need to have your meeting on Tuesday, you need to have the agenda out, the packet posted, and to do all the accounting work to accrue certain expenses and make it as reasonable as possible for you to.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't want a definite, and since you glanced at it and looked at it, I was just looking at it as a could it be looked at it as to
Absolutely.
a no, it can't be done. Okay.
I think there's a possibility, but I would need to evaluate a little bit more.
Any further discussion? I think we'll go ahead and have a vote the item says authorizing the general manager to enter into the one-year professional agreement, but I believe it's the board that enters into the agreement. Is that correct? Tarquin?
The board authorizes the agreement. You're, in essence, authorizing the general manager to sign the agreement.
Okay. The signature line on this draft has the board president and not the general manager. That's why I'm asking if that's to clarify.
Understood. I think that was from Mike Matsumoto's agreement, but
Okay.
you can sign it if his,
Okay.
his name on it, is your name is
All
on
right,
it.
so we'll get a vote for the board to authorize the general manager or the board president to enter into a one-year professional services agreement with Platinum Strategies Incorporated for accounting services as presented in item G2. Just a general vote. Is that correct, Tarquin?
Correct.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? No. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to the
Thank you,
group.
Josh.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Moving on to item G3, discussion and possible action regarding the authorization of the general manager to enter into a 2-year professional services agreement for tennis instructor at Rossmoor Park. Mr. Mendoza.
Okay, President Searles, members of the board, this is another contract that the Personnel and Contract Administration Committee reviewed. They did look at last year's template, and all we're asking is a few adjustments to that template. I have met with our tennis instructor, Bo Berglund, 2 or 3 times, at least 2 or 3 times, and negotiated this contract. Of course, Mr. Berglund did want some extra, flexibility in some of the scheduling, which we could not meet because of the demand out there for tennis courts, and always wanted to keep at least 2 available. And so we are working with him on, and it really doesn't have to be in the contract, on some scheduling if he wants to do some carnivals or some group lessons, but not during prime time that it would take away from any of our regular customers. So tonight, all we're asking you to do is to ratify this agreement. We did make some adjustments. We, in 2025, we upped the court fee to $17. That's a 50-cent adjustment. And in 2026 to $17.50. We thought that the last 2 years we did it $1 each, and it kind of, he felt that, I think, and he mentioned it a couple of times. So I think we're being a little more conservative at 50 cents a year. There was an area that he constantly asked about, and Carolyn can maybe help out here because she's in touch with our reservation personnel, Jessica and some of the other staff. Mr. Berglund has some issues regarding cancellations, and understandable. You're working with kids, parents, that kids get sick, they go on vacation, they made a reservation, something happened at school, and our current system is if he cancels within less than 24 hours, he pays the $17.50 or whatever the fee is. And we thought we wanted to give him a little grace, but we also wanted to protect our district and protect our courts and the fees coming in. So I'm recommending that we, within 24 hours, that it's an $8 fee, because that's what we would have lost if somebody made a reservation and they couldn't have. But I'm pretty sure that if he does it within 24 hours and pays us the $8, we might even make $16 because somebody had time to make a reservation depending on what time he canceled. So I thought this would be a great accommodation and a grace period for him to give that $8 instead of the $17.50, and he could probably throw that back on the tennis patron as a penalty, or as a way of it's a way of securing some funds to pay us and to make sure our courts and our time is respected. So with that, I'd like the board to please consider these terms and enter into a 2-year contract. I think it gives Bo some confidence and stability of being out there, a 2-year contract, and it also provides us with the knowledge that we have 2 years to go till we have to either go out to bid or you know, construct another fee contract. So I'm sorry, I kind of screwed that up. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I don't know where I went with that, but you got it. I think you got it.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. From the committee, Director Remne.
Joe, I can defer to you on that, but I think we just agreed to pass it through because
Yeah.
he's tried and true. He works really well, and again, it's a matter of just allowing him to do what he's been doing with us for a very long time. And the people that are taking lessons with him seem to be very happy with him.
Yeah, we're lucky to have him.
And
Yes.
the only thing I think we did ask is that when we do bring in pickleball contracts or contractors, that we look side by side at the contracts to make sure that there's parity and the equity between what one is
Pickleball.
getting versus the other, which is, of course, what would be done. And just kind of a redundant statement that needs to be said. But I think we pretty much had no problem with it, didn't we?
We were good to go.
Any discussion from the board?
I'm just, go ahead, Tom.
I'm just trying to understand, so, I reserve with Bo, right, for an hour, so who makes the reservation on our side, on our?
Bo
system?
does.
Bo does.
So Bo is his own contractor. He takes in reservations, and then he'll reserve the court and pay.
Got it, so that hour's gone now, he owns that hour, and then they cancel with him,
Right.
and in the past, he'd have to pay the $16 or $17.
Right.
Wow, okay. I see. Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
and that's cancellation within 24 hours or before 24 hours? You mean,
Within.
so what about 48-hour cancellation?
Well, then, yeah, then.
Yeah,
there's no-
it can be
there's no-
canceled.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is right up near the, for whatever reason, okay. All right, I just wanted to understand that. Okay, yeah. I'm good.
Director Maynard?
I like the continuity of keeping him, so.
Yep, me too.
So, no further discussion. I'd move that the general manager enter into a 2-year professional services agreement for tennis instructor instruction at Rossmoor Park. Do I have a second?
Second?
All right, we'll have a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, passes. Thank you. Moving on to item G4, discussion and possible action regarding authorizing the general manager to enter into a 2-year professional services agreement extension with Land Care USA LLC. General Manager Mendoza.
Sure. President Searles, members of the board, this is very similar to the bowl situation and to the tennis situation. We have a current agreement with Land Care. As you remember, we entered into that agreement about a year ago. And in that agreement, we have the ability to extend it for two-year terms. This would be the first 2-year term. I did talk to Land Care, and they did ask us for, I believe, Carolyn, help me here, I think it was a 7% increase? 5% increase for this 1 year. And I told them no, and that we're looking at a 2-year extension, and that we negotiate a 3% each year as a cost of living, and they agreed to that. They've been doing a good job. There was a rough start, and we worked all that out. They gave us a new representative. We have a routine now, and I believe our parks are pretty well taken care of. They're looking good. And they do charge us for some extra work. That's in the contract. and we keep that down to a minimum. And I kind of use the analogy of a used car. We have an old irrigation system. We have some other issues out there that, we have some, the parts are used. And if there's anything above and beyond, we negotiate with them on what they can and what they can do and what we can do. So it's kind of like a used car. I mean, something happens to it. If Omero can fix it, change a couple of sprinklers head, change a spark plug, whatever that may be, he does it. If it's something beyond our capability or is going to take more time than we have and the staff we have, then we negotiate a price with land care, like a broken main line break or something like that. And even at that, we cut the cost down by digging and opening it up, preparing for them to come in and do the work quickly, get out, and then we backfill it. So there's a lot of little nuances there to how we save money. And we always do it with the best interests of the district. So we have a good working relationship with them right now, and I would recommend that we enter into another two-year contract at 3%, and I believe, as Director Maynard said, that provides us with some stability and continuity. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
And I'll ask the committee any comments.
I was not in agreement with this contract for a couple of reasons. One is that it is a 2-year contract with a 2-year escalation, and we don't know who our general manager is, and you're locking us into 4 years. We may have somebody that doesn't have your expertise in parks, and when you're looking at the pieces you do, the pieces they do, the things that are added in and the things that aren't, I think you're handcuffing the unknown of who's coming in to be putting in a contract, and there's a lot of things that just weren't answered in it with what it is in terms of what they do, what we don't do, what they have done, and it was more ambiguity than anything else, and we're basing this on the relationship you've had with them, and you're not general manager here, and that leaves me in a very uncomfortable place with a 4-year contract with a firm that was
It's a 2-year
co-managed.
contract.
2 with 2 more that could be extended. So in essence, it's okay, we got 2 with 2 more in it with built-in escalations in it. So it was more the ambiguity of it that I did not feel comfortable moving forward, and I might have been different with you on that, Joe. I'm not here, Director Shade, I'm not sure.
I'm actually, I'm confident with our staff.
Yes.
I'm confident with Omero and Chris and everyone. So I think we may have differed on that, only because of that. But I know there was a question for you on the 2-year contract. I do have that on my notes. But that is where we did differ, just because I did. I think 2 years is, we'll review it in 2 years, but I can understand how you feel on the 1-year thing. But I am confident with our staff, so I'm gonna move to say I'm good with rolling with the 2-year.
Is there a normal termination in this, as I always say, the one-sided Rossmoor contract, that they're stuck with us, but at any time we're able to exit? No. Tarkin?
Yes, that is the.
Oh, then there goes the risk. I'm with you, Joe.
0 risk.
We may exit pursuant to the terms of the agreement. Let me review the actual terms of the exit clause.
Where is that? I was looking for the terms. Is it on the page 1? What page is terms? Where's termination on here? Because I don't see it.
It's the lack of the prior agreement, so you
Yeah,
don't see.
it refers to the exhibits, and so the entire, well, let's see if the original contracts. Hang on.
I don't believe the original contract's there. This is the amendment to the original contract, and it is in the original contract. I think there's a 30-day out.
Yeah, like all our contracts.
Usually
If
there
you can,
is.
if the board can give me a moment, I can search my computer to see if I have a copy of the original contract. It's not on the agenda, but I may have a copy of it.
Please search.
Thanks.
I think it would be a 2 year, 2 years.
Well,
Any further?
I'm okay with the 2 years. I just want to make sure that the point that Director Remney made is we will have a new general manager, and I don't like the idea of cuffing people. As long as we still have that favorable termination clause.
Take the risk out.
There is no risk. That makes this the easiest decision for us to vote on. So as long as it's there, but I can't seem to find it, so.
Is there any other discussion other than that?
No, that's the only point I have.
No, I'm good
While
with
he's
it.
looking, we
Yeah,
can
I would
move
say
to
we
something
table
else.
this and move on.
I have the
Oh,
answer.
Okay.
Section 5.1, termination of agreement. District may, by written notice to contractor, terminate the whole or part of the disagreement at any time and without cause
There we go.
by giving written notice to contractor of such termination and specifying the effective date thereof at least 7 days before the effective date of such termination. Contractor may terminate this agreement without cause and shall do so by providing written notice of district of such termination and specifying the date thereof at least 30 days before the effective date.
Okay.
One other question?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead to the mic.
The additional things that costs, the things that are outside of scope, things that you usually will cut costs on with Omero doing the spot treatment of weeds and the, I don't know what it
Repairs.
is. Are you comfortable that those things are covered in the event that you're not here overseeing the landscaper's work? If that makes sense, I don't know if I worded it correctly. Because if you're not here because you have extensive knowledge in parks and the work that you've done, Omero does too, but he serves as the general manager. So I guess this one I might agree that I'm overthinking on, but is it a matter of the things that are in the contract? Or do you feel that what needs to be done in the park can be done?
Yes, and I wouldn't give me that much credit. This is basic common sense. So, like I said, when you open the hood, can Merrill fix that spark plug? When you open that sprinkler, can he adjust it or change it? 90% of the time he could. If it's beyond that and he knows his capabilities, we get a price from them and we negotiate, yes. Yes.
Okay, but it'll be covered in the contract that we've got and the amount that you're contracted
Yes,
with them for?
yes.
Okay.
So I move that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a 2-year professional services agreement extension with Landcare USA LLC. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, thank you. Moving on to item G5, discussion and possible action regarding authorizing the general manager to enter into seasonal contracts with Elite Special Events to provide services at the 2025 Rossmoor Health and Wellness Summer and Winter Festivals. Mr. Mendoza.
These are, President Cyril's members of the board, these are templates that we've used in the past. Our attorney has looked them over. We have discussed them with our Elite Special Events and Ted Holcomb, their operator, and he's completely satisfied with these. We do have the dates down there that festivals will be being held on May 10th. That will be your Health and Wellness, June 14th. That's our first festival in this fiscal year. July 12th, August 9th, and September 13th, and finalizing with the December 13th Winter Festival. So the contract's there. The only change in the contract, Targan, correct me if I'm wrong, is the beer garden wasn't well received. We didn't, I didn't really care for it very much. And when I talked to Ted, he says, hey, we're not making any money off it. They can take it or leave it. So we both agreed that we take the beer garden out. And that's the only major change. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. And Ted would like to move forward with this because he wants to start marketing. And I believe Chris is one band away from getting some kind of concrete answer to our 4 bands during the summer.
Yeah, all right. I'll defer to the committee for comments.
I'll go second this time, but I do have some questions.
Okay, well, I know Mary Ann had some questions, and all her questions are always legitimate and well thought out, so I give credit to that. And I wanted to make sure that we got the full contract. Was that said?
Yeah, there was a couple of pages.
A couple, it was a
yeah,
printing
they
error,
were-
I know
yeah,
that,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
I want to make sure that, you know, that was sent out and for review. And I agree with the whole beer thing, the beer garden. It wasn't, you know, it didn't take off the way that it should have. And I think if it didn't, I'd just make it go away because it's a, you know, we brought it in for it to be a hit, and it wasn't. People just didn't attend it, so that's okay. We're okay with that. So I think we can just move forward on that. Ms. Mary Ann?
Two questions. One is, why are we wrapping all of this into one? Well, let me start with my first question first. Without having any idea, it's a large budget of $68,000 for community events. Is that all of this? Because I don't know where we're spending our event money on things, and I do know that there's $12,000 towards the Winter Festival, and the expenses are higher there. I don't know, because the community events have gone from 29,000 to 35 to 52, and now they're at 68 in 4 years. Why are they going up so substantially? Because I don't know what's in our events things, and we don't have any breakdown of where any money is on anything. So I'm just a little bit confused on it. And along those lines, is there a particular reason that all four have to be wrapped into one contract?
Can you answer that one?
Can you restate your question? I was looking.
The last question, please.
Is there a reason, because we've done the contracts separate, which has allowed some flexibility on things? For example, I know that Ted's daughter is doing much better in the Health Hub Wellness Festival, but somebody may want to go a different way. Does this bind us into all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events in the one contract? Or does that wrap them up into something that obligates us to that? Or is there a way to say, we changed our mind on this one aspect of it? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with her event. It's a good event.
Understood. So as I understand the question is, we have the five summer events, correct? 5 summer festivals. Are we obligated to four?
Yeah.
Four summer festivals. Are we obligated to hold all 4 of them?
So we're obligated to 4 in the one contract, which is, before, I think we were 3 on one on the other, and 1 on the other, if I recall right. So it's not a big deal as long as it's not everything.
So
But there are 3 different
just to be clear,
contracts.
there are 3 separate contracts. Initially, it was discussed.
There are 3, okay.
It was discussed internally initially just doing them as one contract. I recommended breaking them up into 3 contracts just for those various reasons that
Because I think I read
there's several contracts.
There are signature pages for each one. And Ted Holcomb is hosting each one of them, and his daughter is helping him. She works for him.
Because in the comments, it said it was recommended as 1. So as long as it's understood to be 3 of them. I think it was in the staff comments and not necessarily the contract, so that might be different.
So I'm showing a contract for the Winter Festival, the Summer Festivals, and Health and Wellness.
Yes, sir.
Right, and there are 3 identical contracts with, the changes are the dates. Again, we can get out of these contracts, because all of our contracts are a 30-day notice if we want to make any changes, and I'm sure if we wanted to change the format, or change the name, or change what, we just have to talk to Ted and make those changes, right? It just, this is what has been working, and what we've been doing. Reading the top, Joe, you were saying, sorry, yeah, I'm glad Ted's not serving, we're not having beer at the Health and Wellness, right? That's probably not a good idea. That's the first one up, and you're talking about, hey, they're getting rid of the beer garden.
There may be some arguments there about
Beer's complex.
That's true. So anyway, sorry, I thought that was funny there at the beginning. Okay, so we're in this G5, there are 3 contracts that we're approving with Elite Special Events, and it's Health and Wellness, it's the summer events, and it's Winter Festival.
This one shows 4 summer festivals in the winter.
Let me see.
There are 4 events in the
There
summer.
are 4 events in the summer.
There's 4
So
events in
6
summer.
total events.
Yeah, yeah, 6. Okay.
But with our Rossmoor friendly contract that we can cancel.
Yep. All right.
Any further discussion?
Ted does an amazing job.
All righty. To move that we authorize the general manager to enter into seasonal contracts, 3 of which with Elite Special Events to provide services at the 2025 Rossmoor Health and Wellness, the 2025 Summer, and 2025 Winter Festivals. Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Wait. Just a discussion piece in there, and I just wanted to say I'm comfortable moving forward on that as long as we can get better numbers moving forward in next year's budget as to what it is. And I'm good with that, so I'll say yes.
Okay. Oh,
Can you-
You're in the budget committee, so you'll,
Yeah, I'm good.
Make that happen.
Yes.
Item G6, discussion and possible action regarding the authorizing the general manager to enter into a 1-year contract extension with City of Brea regarding Brea IT.
President, Chair, members of the board, this is a very unique contract that we have with Brea IT to provide us services for our IT, work that we do in the district. It would cost us, I don't know how much more, but quadruple what it would cost to have somebody here full-time running our IT program, or a couple people. This is very unique. Brea provides services to a number of small districts and cities, and they are asking for an 8% increase this year. They do have overhead. We do get great service for them. I don't think this is too of an outlandish request, and I don't think they're holding us hostage. I think that they are providing us the service we need, and they are always there for us when we need them, and have never really asked us for extra fees for some extra work that they've done. Just recently, we are looking into a camera system and some surveillance cameras in our parks. They're helping us with that. We did a pilot program. We think it works, and we're going to be expanding that. It's very cost effective. And they also upgraded our what's the word? Hotspot at Rossmoor Park, and didn't charge us extra for that, gave us good analysis. We've been working on that since I've been here, trying to get better coverage over there. It's a bad area, and they did help us, so we do have better service there for our staff. We were running at a very, low level of coverage there, and it was very difficult for Chris or any of the staff to use that computer. So I'm happy with them. The hourly rate, the monthly rate is $2,000, $24,000 annually. They give us 5 hours of dedicated on-site support per month, and they do that, or as needed, and they're always on call for us. They have a representative that lives in Long Beach. On his way home, he comes in numerous times and helps us without worrying about that 5-hour dedicated service. So I would recommend us moving forward, and if you have any questions, Caroline and I will be happy to answer them.
Director Rimney?
I have put them through the paces. I find them to be very responsive, very responsible, and I would feel comfortable just moving approval of it.
Director Shade, any comments?
I have on my notes that we were good with this.
Yeah.
We didn't have any issues with this. Let's just move forward on it. I agree.
Director Maynard?
Sure, I'll make the motion. Make the motion for authorizing the general manager to enter into a 1-year contract extension with Brea IT.
Is there a second?
A second?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Passes. Thank you. Moving on to item H, general manager items. Mr. Mendoza.
Okay, I have a few, President, Sears, members of the board. As we discussed that OCTA, Caltrans issue along the freeway there is very complex. I have some information here that we're going to be putting out on our website. It tells our residents who to call when, who to log into, and right now OCTA has a majority of that area that they're going to clean up brush. In the future, at a target date later in 2025, Caltrans takes it back. And so we will be publicizing those two websites in order to ask for requests for service or complaints. In addition, we're on the phone. This has been a big issue. I mean, we get a lot of phone calls regarding that, and people are frustrated. So we stepped out and tried to help out as much as we can, and we found that there's a representative named Kalina North from OCTA who will be doing a community outreach program just for Rossmoor on March 29th from 9 to 11. We're going to publicize the heck out of it. They are too, and it's regarding any information our residents might have on the I-605 Catilla Avenue overchange project ahead of construction starting, as well as to provide opportunity for the community to ask any questions. So it's kind of related, but at least it gives more information to our residents. So we'll get that out there. She's coming out on March 29th, so we're excited about that. And we'll make sure that, especially those residents along Ruthie Lane and Martha Ann, are notified about this. Rossmoor Picnic Shelter, we're in plan check. We should have reviews by February 20th. Everything's automated, so we keep an eye on the progress that the planning and development overview of the plans provide us. And Carolyn, I think last time you said it was February 20th? Yeah.
Yes, I haven't seen any movement on the website. It still shows February 20th as the target date.
The bid package will be sent out to contractors on March 3rd and with a March 14th deadline. And then the structure will be ordered as soon as Orange County approves the plans. So I'm looking at approximately project completion May 30th. Rush Park East Room upgrade, I think we're going to go into closed session in there. I want to thank Omero and Sergio and a couple other staff that we bought some soundproofing panels that were professionally made, and they installed them. They did a great job, and that room is very usable. We're getting letters of compliments. We're getting people coming in thanking us, the AA women, the churches, everybody that's using it. When you go in there, you're going to see a big difference. FEMA COVID relief grant, we have been approved in the system, and we were waiting a check, which you never know, it might come tomorrow. But in the process, we were notified that the President of the United States has put a restraining order on all FEMA funding. So I think it's just a hold, but it'll be here. Outdoor surveillance cameras, I think I talked to you about that. We did a pilot program. We're turning them off until we set a policy and we make sure we're in compliance with the law and work with the sheriff, Captain AJ, and make sure that we have the right, signage and everything else in order. Because there are some laws out there we need to meet. But we found a very cost-effective camera, and we are picking out our sites right now. We did a couple of test sites that worked really well. Okay. Shakespeare by the Sea, we talked about that. Farmers Market's coming up. The agreement expires May 8th. I will be meeting with them to discuss the future of the program, and if there's any change in dates, any change in services that might, it's been struggling. So we're trying to somehow see how we can keep it going and make it healthy. Okay? And oh, one more thing, I'm sorry. We did softball. Softball is, we're getting towards that contract. We've been talking to them, easing into it. They are going to be paying for the snack bar this year. They are going to be staying away from Friday nights, so that gives a little more rest out there to the traffic pattern and everything. And they are looking for some fields in Los Alamitos to move over a couple of times to give us a little more break out there. I think that field, I forget what the name of it is, down on by the train base. That's going to be a dedication coming up. I'll send you the information. But they redid that park. It's really nice. Yeah. Well, they redid it.
Oh, they redid it.
Yeah, and they redid the ball field, so it's ready to go. But part of the agreement is we were to replace the backstop screens. They were pretty ratty and they were kind of falling apart. So if you go out there, you'll see all the backstop screens replaced with our logo on it. Looks really nice.
We paid for that.
We did, yes. We always have, yeah. Just like the tennis court nets. So looks really nice. So we added the logo to give us some identification. Okay. So that concludes my report. If you have any questions.
Director Maynard?
No questions.
Director Shade?
No?
Director Rimney?
Thank you.
Director DeMarco?
I have a couple questions that I know we got along.
Go ahead, no.
Just real quick, okay, so you said the cameras were on and then we turned them off?
Yeah, the cameras were on just to see how effective they would be.
But they weren't turned off because we were in non-compliance?
Yeah, I felt a little uncomfortable that we haven't set a policy and we haven't put signage out. That's all.
All right.
And yeah, it'll be quick. Next month, Ben. Yeah.
Okay, so the softball contract, have they, you're saying they're looking in, but have they given up anything?
Yes, they've given up Fridays.
I understand Friday, but I mean like on a Saturday.
Not yet. They're looking at
They're
getting
still
some
at 3 and 3,
they're
3
looking
games,
at-
6 games.
Right. They're looking at getting some extra time over at Los Al when that field's open.
And then when is that contract going to be ratified?
I think we ought to take it back to the committee and then ratify it and bring it to the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But there is movement. Okay?
And the thing about the brush behind, Martha Ann and all that, I mean, this is happening everywhere, and, until the laws or the way, I mean, until such time as our leaders say that, you can't live inside those, we're still going to have these fire issues but I agree that the grass needs to be mowed, so thank you for pushing this. This is very important. Yeah. That's it.
Continual ongoing issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. Move on to item I, board member items. Mr. Maynard, Director Maynard.
None for now.
Director Shade?
None.
Director Rimney?
I'll go really fast because we got a long night. I go to a bunch of different meetings, and I think that like the board to have the information on, in addition to the other ones. I serve on the Orange OCTA Citizens Advisory Committee, and both the bicycle pedestrian and the adaptive technology Citizens Advisory Committees. And so those have a whole lot of movement in them right now because of budget sliding things happening between federal, state, county, and everything else. And they're working really hard to negotiate and hold in place the existing projects that are going on, the ones that are in the pipeline ready to start, and still leaving room for other projects that are emerging. On the e-bike front, again, they're dealing with the same issues. They're dealing with the individual communities and counties and working on things, trying to find that middle ground between what enables it as a good source of affordable transportation, plus safety in making things happen, plus the punitive things and the requirements that have to happen. And one of the biggest constraints that they have is in working with the state and integrating that in with legislation, because they need the terminology consistent enough that everybody can come together all at once. So it's kind of a monumental lift, and they're doing a really good job at that. The adaptive technology, They're working on shifting over to point-of-sale payment of fares. They haven't changed it in 20 years. And the technology is there, and it's a difficult thing to do because adaptive technology, the people using most of the transportation have other issues, and so bringing that all in together and shifting them into technology, which most people don't do real well, is something, and it's amazing to see them come together. I went to the ISDOC, which is Independent Special District of Orange County quarterly luncheon. Supervisor Doug Chaffee spoke, and he echoed the situations happening with OCTA. He's the president of that association, of that board this year. And then after that, we had Chris Palmer speak, and he's the legislative representative for the CU, California Special District Association. He was talking about the legislation that they were working on that would bring parity to being able to compete for federal grant money. And it did fail, but they are confident in moving forward on bringing that back in so that we would be able to compete for grants along with cities and counties. And he was proud to announce that the new National Special District Association is in force now and in place now, and we are one of the CSDA is one of 8 states that are now cooperating on these state special district issues. I finished my second mandated ethics training course for elected officials. If you get a chance to take the webinar versus the video, it's an hour instead of 2 hours. It's really good. It's included with our CSD membership, and it's great. I highly suggest it to anybody doing that. There are opening spots on the OC Historical Commission, and some of our properties there, St. Isidore's and Los Alamitos on this side, museum. And Rossmoor Women's Club and RHA are both doing their membership drives right now. Woohoo! Renewed my Rossmoor Women's Club after years. I was negligent, and they are an amazing group of people. And then the Rotary today had their annual Valentine's fundraiser for charities and giving money to 12 different nonprofits. They brought in thousands of dollars that will be matched by Rotary, and it was a really great thing to see. Quarterly shredding event happened. Another one from the CSD is coming up in March. Thank you. And Red Cross Blood Drive next month. And that's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Director Rimney. I would like to begin with thanking our guests tonight, Captain Patella, Captain Kane, our sponsors. Again, thank you for your generous donations in support of our festivals. We couldn't do them without you. Special thanks to Cub Scout Pack 667 from Weaver and Lee Elementary. The 2 young gentlemen presented our colors quite well, and it was a great honor to have them here. I would like the board to consider, as I said earlier, the CIP, a town hall kind of big picture plan kind of process. I would support that kind of meeting. I'm also would like the board to consider a twice a year all agency town hall. So a lot of the stuff is outside of our jurisdiction. We can have the meeting, we have this great facility, but twice a year convince, we get vector control and public works here on the same night. And the community knows it's more of a discussion.
Did you say the word convince?
We're going to work on that. We're going to have to convince. Yeah, we're going to, but it's going to take all of us. It'll take, getting someone from the supervisor's office.
That's a great idea.
Our legislators that represent us. But it can have that power because I think we can get residents to come to something that isn't us doing the budget and other items. With that, though, I do want to thank the committees for your work, because it was a lot of work to get through this agenda today because of the work you did. So
I got one more thing. This was all general manager. One more important thing. Joe, and you can run this just through the president. Who is in charge of our hydrants? Okay, well, I want to know. I'm pretty sure it's the water district. It's the guy, because they changed a bunch of them. Who's in charge? And we should demand every single fire hydrant be tested based on the catastrophic failure of one of ours when we needed it the most. So find out who it is, and then if I would ask they come and report, but I would want to ask them, I'd want every single hydrant tested.
Good. I will work through the chief and,
Okay.
and also
But I
find out
think,
who it is.
I think just based on the captain's, comment that they're not in charge of it, I think
Right.
the water district is in charge of supplying the water and I think maintaining, because I don't think it was county that changed it over. I think it was our water company.
company.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
No, I thank you for bringing that up. We'll move on to item J, closed session. At this time, we will suspend the open meeting and go into closed session.
We're going into the East Room. Okay?
Oh, this one?
returning out of closed session.
Thank you, Board President Searles. I will now give the closed session report. At approximately 10:05, the Board of Directors recessed into closed session. While in closed session, we discussed the two items on the agenda. Having recessed out of closed session at approximately 10:40 p.m., the closed session report, the district discussed the two items on the agenda, but took no reportable action, and that ends the closed session report.
Any general counsel items?
No general counsel items.
And with that, we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you all.